Mm, I remember you. You're the one who made my dreams come true. Ooh, didn't you know? I remember you. I don't know the words to that song. I don't know the words to any song. You ever notice that? I remember you. Okay, let's see. Oh dear, I don't know this. Oh, Skid Row. I don't know what that the hell. Hi Neil, how you doing? How was your sleep? Did you have a good sleep? I hope you had a good sleep. I had a good sleep. Oh my gosh, I had a great sleep. Crazy. Crazy. Paul J, good morning, dude. Look at you. Number 2. Neil's number 1. You're number 2. How are you? I don't know where I'm going with this. Um, how is everyone this morning? Oh my god, happy Wednesday. I had to look at my 18 in life to go. What's that mean? What's that mean? What does that mean, dear? What does that mean? I am running. When the angels ask me to recall the thrill of it all, I will tell them I remember you. Skid Row. Oh, okay. No, I was looking, I remember you. When the angel. Oh, yeah, that's such a pretty line. Hold on. Now I'm obsessed. I'm well. I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging in there. I'm learning. I'm learning about life. Remember you. Isn't it like a Johnny? Who wrote the original song? Uh, 40. I don't know. I don't even know what to say. Oh, here we go. 1941. Okay. Here we go. Where's that? Oh, Jimmy Dorsey. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. I remember you. You're the one who made my dreams come true. A few kisses ago. I remember you. You're the one who said I love you too. Yes, I do. Didn't you know? Um, I wish I could. I just want to hear the last part of that. Oh, come on. Nobody cares. Never mind. Okay, another time then. Poopers. Pooper scoopers. The lyrics by Johnny Mercer. Of course. Hello. I knew it was a Johnny Mercer song. Hi, Carrie. Hi, Teresa. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. The documentary last night was fucking amazing. Fucking amazing. It was 1,000 cuts. It was about Maria Ressa and the Rappler Media, the press group that she ran. Maria Ressa is a journalist who is from the Philippines, and she very much she ran the CNN desk for many years, and she also has her own media outlet, Rappler, and she covered Duterte from from time before. And so this is her story of being uh, arrested by the government for being for going against Duterte, for reporting on Duterte, not going against him, reporting on what he's doing, and the entire political process in the Philippines at great danger to herself. I think she's still on appeal with the Philippine Supreme Court on her arrest. She didn't see the showing, but I had put up, this is the great news. After I watched the movie, I put up a thing saying, we watched this movie, and I just want to thank Maria Ressa and Pia Renata and all of the Rappler journalists who put themselves in danger. And literally, one of the things that struck me the most about Maria's story is that back in the day, during the first Trump administration, or somewhere there, yeah, somewhere towards the end of that, she interviewed Chris Wiley. Yeah, she was a Nobel Prize winner. She interviewed Chris Wiley, who is the Cambridge Analytica whistleblower, right? Remember him? And she talked about the fact that he told her that Cambridge Analytica used the Philippines as a testing ground for the mind fucking that they then used in the United States and other countries. So literally, back then, she told the world they did this first in the Philippines and now they're doing it. You know, like I just I knew her story a little bit, but I did not know it enough, and I'm very embarrassed about that. Um but yeah, it was just amazing. And then I woke up this morning and and what did I see? Three shiny reindeer looking at me. No, I didn't. That's not what I saw. Um, I saw this. So I had put it up on Twitter and Blue Sky because I'm trying to post both places. It, and Maria Ressa answered me. Thank you for watching. I know, it's all the similarities, Tom, right? I mean, she's telling us specifically that Cambridge Analytica, their plan, according to Chris Wiley, was to test these mind fucks in different countries, right? And the Philippines being one of them, in order to then test it on larger countries like us. And it worked. And it worked. And it worked. Butterflies, are you here? Good morning, darling. Morning yawn. I like that. Morning. So no, she didn't see the showing, of course, but she saw that we watched it and she appreciated it. And I'm just like, you know, I'm just, I am a little starstruck with people like her and Craig Unger and other people who have, especially people like her, who have really put themselves in the breach, in the gap between right and wrong. And the other journalist, Pia Renata, I think is her last name. Forgive me if I mispronounce, if I'm not getting her last name right. She is amazing. She is amazing. So I highly recommend 1,000 Cuts. It's free on YouTube. I'll put the link because I really think this is such a relevant story. Oh, I don't need that anymore. It's such a relevant story to what we're doing now. And, you know, it doesn't like give us an answer, but it also really teaches us that this is, sometimes I watch her, sometimes I don't. I don't know. I'm like this or that. I don't know. Anyway, the point is that the folks that have done this, you know, we're now getting to the point where some people have been living like this with an oppressive government. I was seeing again this morning the way that Dump is going to go after people who speak against him. And I know it's a global operation, Carla. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to say, oh, there's new news. No, it's not that. It's just that, gosh, you know, these stark reminders of the fact that we've been here and we knew and we know, but no one will acknowledge how disinformation is key. And I am like, I don't fucking understand. He is trying to silence critics. I saw another thing this morning. I can't even remember where it was. He's going to start going after people who say things against him, and it's going to start getting crazy. And I was thinking to myself, so is it at the point where there's an extrajudicial killing that there's like national shock? At what point do we get to national shock? And maybe that's a stupid thing because it sounds stupid. It sounds like you're waiting for something happening. And I'm sorry, but I just can't shake the fact that I think that if people stood up and said this, and I mean people whose voices can be on like larger platforms, disinformation is key. And I don't know if it's that we need to understand disinformation more collectively. I don't know if that's even possible. Because what I know too from listening to Chuds, exactly, what I know too from listening to Chuds is that this is what they want. He's going after people that they feel also come after them by speaking down to them, right? Because again, I'm going to go back to one of my original points with Chuds with the division in this country. The division in this country is because there is an entire group of this population who, number one, share worldviews with some of these assholes in some way. Maybe a little bit, maybe a lot, maybe a little bit, maybe a lot, right? Those people think that what he's doing is justified. They think this is justified. He doesn't remember World War II. Caroline Leavitt doesn't remember World War II. She clearly never learned about what Nazi propaganda was like because she's making all the same not mistakes, but she's following the playbook. She's not in charge, okay? That bitch needs to come down a couple pegs. She's not in fucking charge. And I knew the minute I saw that cunt in New Hampshire, where she appeared at a Trump rally being interviewed by RSBN just as an attendee of the rally. Now, she had run for office and kind of stuff, so she's kind of part of the little New Hampshire Republican machine, right? She's run for office before. There's nothing, she's pretty vanilla, but there's something about that cunt, all right? She rose really fast. She appeared on that rally. I wish I could find the clip because I actually had a clip from that rally. She was like a fucking mannequin. She was like boom, 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 boom. It was as if she already worked for the campaign, but she didn't at that point. It was after that she got hired onto the campaign. So, long story short, if we don't understand that the folks who are the division in this country is because there is a segment of the population who is bought into a whole set of disinformation because on some level what he does reflects what they think should be done. Whether it's I hate immigrants, whether it's I hate gay people. There's a new kid. What's this fucking thing I've got here? Hold on. Let me show you. New kid who wants to end gay marriage. Some fucking little guy from Michigan, wherever the fuck he is. Where is he? Where is that bitch? Oh, here we go.
Ago, the United States.
All right, let me. Boop. They're all these. I'm telling you right now. I don't know. It's not Groiper. It's kind of Groipery. I guess it's Groiper. Oh, I think she does both. I think she really believes and she's in on it. Because I do. Here's why you don't understand it, Lee. Let me tell you why you don't understand or why you find it hard to believe that any of them actually believe what they say. The reason you find it hard to believe is because you're not that type of person. Because you don't hold values that want to diminish other people. Because you don't feel guilty for years and years of having bigoted attitudes. That's why you don't get it. Is because you don't understand how someone could possibly be in this world and think of other people so minimally. So if they are willing to just say anything at the end of the day, that's a distinction without a difference. Yeah, that's true. She's the crazy eyes of a true believer. She does. And I tried to look into her, like, what the fuck is this little bitch's problem? I think she's just like one of those up and coming Republican ladies in New England, kind of thing. I think that's what she was. And so she like ran for office unsuccessfully. She got a couple big donations. I don't know who gave her the big donations. I got, I think, banned by her on Twitter. Maybe not. Ever hear of Line for the Lord? Yeah. Paul, what'd you watch? Did you watch something? You watched a hot take this morning. Did she go to Liberty or Hillsdale? I don't know. She's from New Hampshire, I think. I mean, she was based in New Hampshire. Yeah, thou shalt. Yeah, see, Tom, here's the thing. This is actually selective. Oh, no, he's doing an ad? Lisa, did he do an ad? Okay, I want to show you this first, and then I'm going to, then we'll find that ad. I put up a short a while back that was from fucking January 21st when he talked about leveling Gaza for condos. Okay? He's been yeah, it's cringe as fuck. It's disgusting. It's war criminal. That's what it is. He's a war criminal. Trump is a war criminal. He's a war criminal. I haven't seen the Trump Gaza ad. I didn't know there was one. Ugh. I hate everybody now. All right, let me play this dickwad for you. I know. Womp womp. All right, this is state representative looks to end state same-sex marriage. Because here we are.
I call on the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn Obergefell versus Hodges.
State Representative Josh Shriver unveiled his resolution Tuesday afternoon that looks to have the U.S. Supreme Court overturn its
ruling
that
need to
gives
do that,
same-sex
my
couples
love.
the right to marry.
10 years ago, the
You're
United
such a
States Supreme
love.
Court redefined
Play a
the
song
sacred
for you
institution
after.
of marriage.
How old is that
This blunder
child?
compromised the mother-father child family unit. This decision deprived children of a fundamental right to be born
Kim, you're so kind.
and raised
That's
by a
too
mother
kind.
and
If
a
you need
father.
it back,
In a
let me know.
5-4
I'll cash
ruling,
out
the
you.
highest court in the land declared the 14th
me find
Amendment
that
required
ad.
all states to perform same-sex marriages and to recognize those performed in other states. Shriver, along with 12 co-sponsors, wish to make these marriages null and void. Many in the LGBTQ community and their allies say they are not surprised at the move and feel there are more important things the representative should be thinking about.
We have real problems facing Michiganders. I don't think there's a lot of people sitting at their kitchen table thinking about, their neighbor's marriage.
It's nothing more than political theater right now, just trying to stir up this fear and create division at a
Get
time
attention.
when we don't need to be any more divided.
Become a
We need to
rising
work on
star.
coming together.
Shriver joins other Midwestern states like Idaho,
You could
Iowa,
also
Montana,
suck
North
Ted
and
Cruz's
South Dakotas
dick.
that have introduced
Boebert
similar
did that.
resolutions.
She's
In
a
tweet, State
two-time
Attorney General Dana
representative.
Nessel had only one thing to say to the authors of the resolution: "Come and get it."
Come and
Raven
get
Blue,
it.
WAM,
Dana!
TV5.
I love Dana Nessel. I love Dana Nessel. Oh, she's great. All right. That was what I saw this morning. So I was like, oh, great. Oh, fantastic. All right, let's watch this fucking thing. Oh my God. Hold on. Oops, wait, where am I? Ah, where'd I go? Here we go. Boop. Oh God. All right, this is from The Guardian. Oh, wait, you're not on mine. Thanks. I'm so sorry. Hold on. I did so good this morning. I got everything all lined up, but now I'm like pathetic. Okay. God damn it. Where'd they go? Where's my... Oh. That's weird. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Just a little technical difficulty. Where the fuck? Oh. What happened here? Oh my God. What just happened? Can you undo? Can I undo whatever I just did? What the fuck did I just do? Oh, here we go. I don't know what I just did, you guys. That's scary. Something totally fucked up here. Okay, so there's that. Done. Now, sorry about that. God, I was so good this morning too. Okay, so this is The Guardian, and this is the bizarre video. Okay. Oops. Oh, man. Okay, sorry. This is an ad. Okay.
Lolo is coming to set you free, bringing the light for all to see. No more tunnels, no more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza number one. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza number one.
We have an opportunity to do something that could be phenomenal. And I don't want to be cute, I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so this could be so magnificent.
Yeah. Okay. You're an asshole. How about that? That's crazy. That's disgusting. Oh, that was only part of it? Okay, well, we can find the rest of it. I realized after the fact that I said see you next Tuesday to the mailman, I thought, oops, I hope he doesn't think I was calling them that. I hope not. I hope not. It's repulsive. Oh my God, it's a genocide. It's American. You thought Genocide Joe? Really? Really? You fucking idiots. You fucking selfish, stupid, vapid idiots. You thought Genocide Joe, huh? Well, don't you feel like a fucking idiot now? What the fuck? Palm Beach posers east. Why don't we call it Genocide Dawn? Where's everybody out in the street about Genocide Dawn? What? Jesus Christ. And you know, it's all fine and good for me to sit here in the United States, safe. But the real story is that right now, someone's displaced, someone's hurt, someone's sick, someone's child is sick, and they're sitting in a camp. So I'm sorry, like all of you, like, you know, go Trump kind of people, which I know you're out there, and I actually know some of you watch me because you hate me so much. You want to see me melt down over people dying. Think about that for a minute. You hate me so much that you want to laugh about people dying because I get upset about it. What does that make you? That makes you trash. That makes you useless. That makes you support genocide. You support child rape. You own it. You own it. So enjoy. If they do enact that budget, I don't know what's going to happen in the Senate with that budget last night. You know, a lot of people are going to die silently here in this country because they're just not going to get their medicine or their cold or their heating. So I hope it was worth it. I hope it was worth it. I hope if you protest voted or you didn't vote or you voted for him because you thought, oh, that's going to accelerate some kind of change or something. I hope you're happy. I hope it's not your grandmother who dies in the cold. I hope it's not your child who is being ethnically cleansed out of their entire homeland and they don't know where they're going to be able to go. And a lot of people already are, gal. Trans people, LGBTQ, have already committed suicide because of the extremists and thieves. An 11-year-old girl committed suicide in Texas because she was afraid her family was going to be deported. So I hope you got what you wanted. I hope you got what you wanted because I voted so people would live. I voted so that Gaza would not be condominiums because I was pretty confident that Kamala Harris wasn't going to raise Gaza and create condos. So good job, everybody. You definitely, I don't know if you thought you were picking the lesser of two evils by doing what you did, but you certainly fucked that, you screwed that pooch real bad. They're not like us. There are people living in fear, yeah. It's not going to be anything close to the utopia. Nothing close to the utopia. I get it. You know, you've been a bigot your entire life. You've been told, don't say those words, don't feel those feelings, don't have those feelings. And finally, your president goes ahead and says, you can have those feelings. You can have those feelings. You can call gay people the F word. You can use the N word. You can, words don't hurt people. That's what they all say, right? Well, they're just words. They're just words because you're saying them. Tom, they don't fucking care. Tom, they don't fucking care. They don't care. They don't understand how economics works. And if they do, they're complicit because they're rich guys who are hoping to stay rich. That's why all the fucking tech guys are on the side of these despots, is because that protects their wealth, they think. And apparently their morals and their ethics aren't enough to sway them to not make those decisions. Tom, they will take the price of eggs up their ass twice on Tuesdays as long as he's the one shoving the eggs up there. I don't even know if him being assassinated by his people inside, because if he's assassinated, it's the people inside that did it, not anybody else. If he gets assassinated, I'm not even sure that's going to shake them. Okay? No, they don't understand history because they don't pay attention. And that's what the disinformation machine counts on. It counts on people being low informed so that they can rationalize. And they can keep the message very simple. You notice the messages are very, 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 very simple. But if in this country we do not combat disinformation, we are fucked. And I'm not even sure combating disinformation is going to help us. But my God, why in the world wouldn't we try? Why in the world wouldn't we try? We have a lot this morning. And then we have another session later this morning. There's a lot. Yeah, but my free speech. My free speech. That's a good one, Max. Yeah, people can't even read an analog clock. I know, Lisa. I know. Oh, eh. All right, where we're starting, I think. I don't know what this is going to be. Full committee markup on Homeland Security. I'm not really sure, but I thought we'd start with that. I'm not sure what's going on. I feel like we should, here's the thing. I was thinking about this morning. Yeah. I was thinking about this morning, and one of the things that I think is that it might be helpful. I like watching hearings, but I also think we need to start watching the markup sessions on bills and the amendments that are offered. I feel like that is going to be a better use of our time going forward as that starts to really ramp up, which it already is actually. 54% in the, well, hey, I taught high school. I know this one, unfortunately, all too well. I've cried. I've shed so many tears over kids not having the basic literacy tools. I've shed actual tears over that. So I know this country is not, and I don't know what the answer is, obviously, because I only have my perspective. Oh yeah, that's right. The cabinet meeting. I totally forgot about that. What time is that at? Hold on. I got to find that. Hold on. I got to find it. All right. So wait, let me tell you what we've got. And then I'm going to find you're right. My brother had to teach remedial. Yeah. So that's so funny, Max. My brother is an English teacher too. From Semaphore, Jeff Bezos emailed Washington Post staff this morning announcing that the Post opinion pages will henceforth focusing on defending personal liberties and free markets. What? What? That's the other thing. Is it? See, I'm trying to think of specific people in Silicon Valley that I think couldn't possibly embrace this. Yeah, the Musk cabinet meeting. Like, I want Ed Oates. Ed Oates, I know you. You know me. You don't remember me, but that doesn't matter. Ed Oates, you were a co-founder of Oracle with Larry Ellison. And I knew Ed Oates when he was part of the board at the San Francisco Zoo. So I got to know him and his wife. Very lovely. Lovely people, really. And Ed had a fondness for grizzly bears. Hi, Cash. So Ed Oates, I know you love grizzly bears very much. And conservation. Ed Oates, I need you to do something. I need you to fucking stand up. I need you and Jennifer to fucking stand up and say something. Nobody's heard from you. Where the fuck are you, Ed Oates? Where the fuck are you? You're Larry Ellison's former partner. You should have something to say. Because if you're a good billionaire, we need you now. We need you to step up. So come on, Ed Oates. Get your fucking act together. Alan Eustace, high up at Google. You know me. Alan, say something. Say something. Sid Espinoza, you were at Microsoft. Say something. Say something. All right, let me try and find the cabinet time because I just want to make sure we don't. I actually do want to see that, unfortunately. I'm really having a hard time, as you guys probably are too, watching this happen. Here we go. Trump will hold first cabinet meeting. Let me do this so you're looking at what I'm looking at. Trump will hold first cabinet meeting. Elon Musk will be there too. He's such a dick. Oh, I hear some bumblings. It must be time. What time? No, ABC can't tell us what time it's going to be. Okay. Nope. All right. fine. No, nope, nope, nope. No time. Okay. No time? Nope, nope. Okay. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, so here's the other thing we're going to do. All right, this is the first. Wait, is this the first thing? Maybe this starts. Then I have the Committee on Science, Space, and Technology is looking at the Artemis program and NASA's path to human exploration of the moon, Mars, and beyond.
Yeah, no.
And then we have a hearing on elementary education.
As a heads up to everybody, we're still waiting on it.
Finally, America Last, how foreign aid undermined U.S. interests abroad. And this is at 8 a.m. This is in about an hour. This is in about a half an hour. This is starting at the same time. So right now you have a choice. You have a choice. It's a viewer's choice. I know, exciting. It's either we start with the step-by-step, the Artemis program and NASA's path to human exploration. I don't know. Then this is a markup. I really, again, Homeland Security Committee markup on bills, I guess. Kind of curious about that. I've started buying adult paperbacks for my 3-year-old grandbaby so he can learn history and economics. I'm storing them in case college. Oh, I love that, Muskie. What a lovely idea. Oh, wait, I want to watch this. I'm so sorry, gal. I missed this. Hold on. Oh, wait. Oh, this is the education one. Gal and Lolo, we are always in sync. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Oops. Oh, wait, is this the same thing? Wait. Is this the same thing I was? Oh, maybe this wasn't what I was. Please register with a valid Harvard email address to attend in person. I say. 6 p.m. EST. Oh, okay.
A quorum
All right, cool.
being present, the committee will be in order. The committee is meeting today for consideration of 4 measures. The authorization and oversight plan of the Committee of Homeland Security, the 119th Congress, H.R. 1000, the Cyber Pivot Act, H.R. H-Res 113, and H-Res 114.
I want to.
Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare the committee in recess at any point. Pursuant to Committee Rule 7D, any requests for recorded votes may be postponed. I now recognize myself for an opening statement. Good morning. Today's order of business will be consideration of the Committee on Homeland Security's authorization and oversight plan for the 119th Congress, as well as additional measures. Rule 10 of the House of Representatives requires each standing committee to adopt and submit an authorization and oversight plan for the 2-year period of the congressional term. The plan under consideration today highlights the committee's major priorities for this Congress. First and foremost, we will work to secure America's borders and support Border Patrol and other DHS components as they carry out their critical mission. We're committed to addressing the root of many cyber insecurities by ensuring the workforce is prepared, equipped, and placed to face rapidly evolving threats to critical infrastructure and networks from nation, state, and criminal actors. We're committed to streamlining regulations to ensure the regime promotes security and rapid, actionable information sharing instead of unnecessary duplicative paperwork. Cybersecurity is something we must all prioritize. We must work with our companies to ensure they're implementing the best cybersecurity practices possible while communicating to them that their government is here to help when they face their darkest day of malicious nation-state-sponsored cyber attacks. Additionally, the committee's plan highlights the need to conduct oversight of the Department of Homeland Security's structure to examine potential reforms to make DHS more efficient, well-managed, and effective in carrying out the Homeland Security mission. This plan will guide the work of this committee and our subcommittees during the Congress by focusing on key priority areas, including countering terrorism and foreign nation-state threats such as China, improving emergency preparedness, ensuring the security of our transportation systems, and supporting law enforcement within DHS and our state and local partners. I encourage all members to support adoption of the committee's authorization and oversight plan as we do the work that the American people sent us here to do. Our second measure that we will consider is H.R. 1000, the Cyber Pivot Act. This bill will help us build a skilled cyber workforce and close the cyber workforce gap to meet the evolving threats that the government and American businesses face on a daily basis. The Cyber Pivot Act seeks to target the development of entry-level cyber talent and expand the pipeline of trained cyber professionals who are ready to work on day one without requiring a costly four-year degree. This skills-based approach is a critical step to ensuring that we're able to protect critical networks from cyber threats. For this reason, the Cyber Pivot Act has earned the support of many leading organizations in the cybersecurity and business communities and in academia. A few months ago in September, we were able to report this bill with unanimous bipartisan support, and it's my hope that we will be able to do so again today and advance a practical measure to strengthening our cyber workforce. Since its reintroduction in the House, it has received widespread industry support, as well as a bipartisan companion bill in the Senate. Finally, we will also be considering two resolutions of inquiry introduced by our ranking member. I now recognize the ranking member to make an opening statement.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, today's markup is happening during unprecedented times. Voters asked Republicans to lower the high cost of living and prioritize safety and security. Instead, Republicans are doing nothing to address the affordability crisis, even though they control every branch of government. Inflation is up, housing prices are up, and the cost of eggs is through the roof, if you can even find any to buy. Meanwhile, there's nothing but chaos and nonsense coming from the White House. Trump is trying to distract from his failed policies by dashing off useless executive orders that do nothing to address the issues Americans care about most. No help at all for people trying to put food on the table, make their rent, or pay their light bill. Americans are asking, is Trump even in charge of his own administration? People are saying it seems like Elon Musk is running the country, and they just might be right. Trump's unelected South African co-president is allegedly a federal employee, but he spends his time at political events rambling incoherently, waving a chainsaw around for the cameras, and giving the Nazi salute to his right-wing extremist friends. And today, evidently, he's going to join the first cabinet meeting of the new administration. That's what he's up to when he's not wasting taxpayers' money by demanding that federal employees who have actual jobs to do send him pointless emails only to have Trump's own cabinet secretaries tell the employees not to. Talk about inefficiency in government.
Thank you.
Trump's administration is fighting among itself rather than doing the work of the people. Unfortunately, congressional Republicans are no better. Yesterday, their leadership brought to the House floor a budget scheme that hurts everyday Americans who are already struggling in order to give $4.5 trillion in tax cuts for billionaires and deep-pocket corporations. Also, an $880 million cut in Medicaid. I guess that's what happens when you put an out-of-touch, out-of-control billionaire in charge of the country.
Here, I'll show you. This
Americans
is how I feel about
also
Easter.
want their government to prioritize safety and security, but instead, Republicans are making it less safe. Republicans are cutting our military. At the same time, the White House is cozying up to adversaries like China and Russia. That makes America less safe.
With like
Republicans are
really
giving Elon Musk
people.
and his
We
Doge
voted with crazy people at the
access to secure government
UN.
systems that
What's
store
going on
Americans' most sensitive data.
We're on the side of
That
Nazis
makes
now?
America
What the fuck is
less
that?
safe. Republicans are firing federal workers who help secure our government networks, prevent planes crashes, protect our nuclear stockpile, and respond to natural disasters. Most of those fired are veterans who serve this country honorably. That makes America less safe. Meanwhile, Secretary of Homeland
I
Security
think the prices
Christian
have kind of come down here, and the availability.
recently
I haven't
said
checked the
that
availability
DOJ
of
should take a
eggs.
chainsaw
It has
to
been
DHS,
very sporadic.
the department she's supposed to be running, the department that was stood up in the wake of 9/11 to protect against
Amazon
terrorist
hair.
attack. And she
Where's my
wants to take a
Amazon hair?
chainsaw
Oh, it's in the
to
closet.
it.
I gotta get it.
Again, that makes America less safe. None of this is what voters asked for. So let's take a look at the Trump-Musk administration's first month in office. Protecting classified systems, F. Preventing plane crashes, F. Responding to
Sean,
disasters.
why are you crashing so many
F.
planes?
Meanwhile,
That's what I asked him at
the
the
Trump-Musk administration has done an A-plus job dismantling Homeland Security, advancing Chinese interests, and parroting Russian dictator Vladimir Putin's propaganda. It's not surprising that when Republican members of Congress are getting an earful from their constituents at town halls around the country, even in overwhelming red districts, Americans are rightfully upset that Republicans are failing to keep their campaign promises and have broken the people's trust on the issues they care most about. Secretary Noem herself recently said, and I quote, "We can't trust our government anymore." On that, I couldn't agree more that, Secretary, the Trump administration is the government and it cannot be trusted. There's no transparency about what Musk Doge gang is doing. Press is being shut out of the White House, and administration continues to refuse to comply with basic congressional oversight about critical security matters. That's why I introduced two resolutions of inquiry the committee will be considering today.
Oh my goodness.
These resolutions require DHS to provide information about Trump's administrative actions that put the department's information systems at risk, jeopardize its workforce, and freezes Homeland Security grant funding. I hope my Republican colleagues will join Democrats in upholding our constitutional oversight responsibility by supporting these resolutions. Regarding H.R. 1000, the Cyber Pivot Act offered by the chairman today, I actually, as you know, I supported the bill last session, but I'm not able to support the bill this time. Part of the reason is that there is strong support on the Democratic side for expanding the cyber workforce and making community colleges more accessible for students. However, a bill that conditions scholarship on government service while the Trump administration is firing existing cyber employees and freezing hiring of new employees is a bait and switch at best. Democrats don't want to trick community college students in need thinking that there will be a federal cyber job waiting for them after graduation. And that's what this bill amounts to with Trump in office. Finally, with respect to the committee's authorization and oversight plan, there's room for improvement. Democrats will offer amendments to the plan to strengthen key areas like combating gun trafficking and racially, ethnically, and religiously motivated violent extremism. These thoughtful amendments deserve our support. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Ranking Member Thompson. Other members of the committee are reminded that opening statements may be submitted for the record without objection and by agreement between the chair and ranking member. The committee shall use an amendment roster today.
Mr. Chairman.
You're recognized.
Reserving the right to object, and I will not object, would the chair please explain the agreement regarding the amendment roster? And I yield to the chairman.
I thank the gentleman and committee members for agreeing to use of an amendment roster. We have agreed that the bills be open to amendment at any point and that we will take up amendments in the order listed on the roster. The chair will allow members to offer amendments listed on the roster out of order to the extent practicable and in a manner not prohibited by House committee rules. Amendments not listed on the roster may be considered at the conclusion of consideration of the roster.
I thank the
Really,
chair for his
Lisa?
explanation
First measles
and
death
withdraw
in
my
Texas?
reservation.
I have not.
Pursuant to notice,
need
I
to
now
check
call
on
up the
how
authorization and oversight plan of the
that
Committee on Homeland Security for the
outbreak has
119th
really
Congress. The
taken
measure was
hold.
circulated
It's
in
West
advance
Texas,
and printed
right?
copies are available. The clerk shall designate the measure.
Authorization and Oversight Plan of the Committee on Homeland Security, 119th Congress.
Without objection, the first reading of the measure is dispensed with and is considered read and open to amendment at any point. Does anyone wish to speak on the oversight plan?
Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time, I have an amendment at the desk.
Right. On the oversight plan, hearing none, it's now in order to consider Amendment 1 to the oversight plan offered by Mr. Magaziner on the roster. The clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment to the Authorization and Oversight Plan of the Committee on Homeland Security, 119th Congress, offered by Mr. Magaziner.
Without objection, the reading is dispensed with. The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes on his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Even though I don't agree with everything in this oversight plan, I want to acknowledge that there is much I do agree with. I appreciate that the draft plan includes language instructing the subcommittee to examine the rise in violent anti-Semitic incidents. As a person of Jewish heritage myself, I'm half Jewish. I'm keenly aware of the rise of anti-Semitism across the country today and the threat it poses. But the Jewish people are not the only ones who are targeted by extremists with hate in their hearts. My amendment will expand the investigation of violent extremism to include all forms of racially or ethnically motivated violent extremism. Whether motivated by racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, anti-LGBTQ prejudice, extreme political views, or other forms of hate, violent extremists acting alone or in groups continue to be one of the greatest threats to the homeland. Let's not forget the victims of recent domestic extremist attacks, all of whom deserve to be alive today. 9 worshipers who were killed at a historically black church in Charleston, South Carolina, by a white supremacist who posted pictures with neo-Nazi symbols and published a manifesto espousing white supremacy. 10 individuals who were killed at a shopping center in a predominantly black neighborhood in Buffalo by a gunman who left a note saying he did it, quote, for the future of the white race. 23 people who were killed shopping at a predominantly Hispanic community in El Paso by a white supremacist who said he wanted to stop a, quote, Hispanic invasion of Texas. 49 people at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, targeted by an extremist because they were at a club that was known to be an LGBTQ plus club. The FBI and DHS have repeatedly stated that one of the most significant terror threats to the U.S. we face today is posed by lone actors and small groups of individuals who commit acts of violence motivated by racism and other extreme beliefs. According to DHS, there were more than 200 of these violent incidents over the last decade that met the definition of domestic terrorism, with racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists committing the most violent incidents during that period. So I commend my colleagues on both sides of the aisle for condemning anti-Semitism, and I thank you for that. But we must ensure that all Americans are protected from violent extremism. I urge my colleagues to support this amendment to instruct the Counterterrorism Intelligence and Law Enforcement Subcommittee to examine all national security threats posed by racially or ethnically motivated violent extremism, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields, and I'll let folks know that Mr. Magaziner and I spoke about this, and I myself am going to be supporting the amendment. Does anyone else wish to speak on the amendment?
Mr. Chairman?
You recognize?
I understand the gist behind it, but what if it's a violent act that's not racially, ethnically, or religiously motivated? Are we going to ignore it?
There are criminal laws. Do you want to ask? You're yielding to Mr. Magaziner?
Yeah.
Is it okay? Yeah, yield for a response?
Sure.
So, look, the oversight plan covers a range of different violent activity that we want this committee to focus on. And so we talk about securing the border, we talk about going after the cartels, we talk about organized crime, like a whole range of different things. And I appreciate the fact that anti-Semitic violence is included in the current draft. But I see no reason why we should limit ourselves to anti-Semitic violence. And I just call out again, we're talking specifically about violent extremism, often that is motivated by strains of ideology that are extreme, that espouse violence. So I see no reason why the committee shouldn't broaden our focus to include it.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you be willing to accept an amendment that says, instead of saying replacing the word violent with saying violent including racially, ethnically, and religiously motivated violent extremism?
Give me just a minute, but I think so. Hold on.
Why? Why? Why?
Right now, the gentleman had just yielded to Mr. Magaziner, and he's on pause. So I think you guys know we like to make sausage in this committee. So if we have to put the two of you in the back room, I'm comfortable with that and moving on to the next.
Yeah,
one.
I'll yield back and circle back in just a minute if you give me.
Okay, let's give me just a second.
If anyone else would like to weigh in, this would be a good time.
Yeah, what's your intent or motivation behind the language change? Exactly.
All right, Mr. Chair.
So I take it the amendment is withdrawn for now and going to be reworked on, and then...
Yeah, we'll resubmit it.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, why don't we go to the next amendment?
Yeah,
We'll
why
roll
don't you
this
go to the next amendment?
After, and since it's withdrawn, and we'll go to the next one then. All right.
All right. We have another thing coming up in a few minutes.
It's now in order to consider Amendment 1 to the Oversight Plan offered by Mr. Swalwell on the roster.
Elementary
The clerk will
education.
report the amendment.
An amendment to the Authorization and Oversight Plan of the Committee on Homeland Security, 119th Congress, offered by Mr. Goldman, number 2.
Without objection, the reading is dispensed with. The gentleman is now recognized for 5 minutes on his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of Mr. Swalwell, we, I guess, offer this amendment together. However it's called, it addresses one of the most significant problems that we are facing at the border, which we spoke about repeatedly in the last Congress, and I was very happy to see that President Trump confirmed with the Mexican president that this is an issue that needs to be addressed. And that is the outflow of American-made firearms to the drug cartels and the Latin American cartels. As many know, there's only one gun store in Mexico that is very carefully and restricted. And over 70% of the guns recovered at crime scenes in Mexico were made in America. We are sending hundreds of thousands of guns to criminal organizations in Latin America that are using those guns to terrorize and wield power over fentanyl trafficking, human smuggling, and other criminal activity. It is the source of the power of the cartels, and it is something that we have to address.
That makes sense.
As we look holistically at how we're going to stop the fentanyl trade, how we are going to secure the border.
Put the machines in.
And so this amendment includes
Are the machines in yet?
The efforts to investigate and disrupt the flow of American-made firearms to the international criminal cartels. And one thing I would just add
Actions, not words.
For all of my colleagues is that the administration has now designated, I believe it's 8 criminal organizations in Latin America as foreign terrorist organizations. That designation carries with it a number of things, but it opens up a criminal statute, which is providing material support to foreign terrorist organizations. And I think there's no question that providing guns
Where do we get all these guns
foreign terrorist
in this country? I mean, do we have like the parts? Is that what it is?
And I am hopeful
Are we
that the
producing these
administration
guns?
and the Department of Justice
I'm dumb
will
about this,
look
so
at
forgive
that
me.
statute as one way
Like,
of
we actually
stopping
make the guns?
the outflow of
I know this is
American-made guns
probably true,
to
but
the
the
border.
guns are made here, right?
so,
and then they get into our
I would
population
submit
through
this
that, right?
amendment on behalf
And then they
of,
go out, right?
Mr. Swalwell, and
They're not
yield
coming
back.
into the country
Gentleman
and then going
yields,
out,
and I'll
right?
just
They're being
say that
made
I spoke
here.
to Mr. Swalwell about this, Heaven forbid, an AUMF happens, and now that the cartels have been deemed terrorist organizations, we send American soldiers or sailors to take them on. And again, I'm not advocating that at this point in time, but I'm just saying that's a possibility now that they've been declared. That means those guns will be shooting at American soldiers. So I support this amendment, and
Okay,
I'll
that's what I
now
thought.
recognize anyone
That's
who
what I
wants
thought.
to speak on it.
Yeah, Lisa, you're right. They don't want to. There are some people there who are totally down with this.
If there's no further
Take the money out of politics.
debate on the question,
Take the money out of
or
politics.
the question is agreeing on to the amendment offered by Mr.
There
Goldman.
are American firearm manufacturing companies
All those
that
in favor
have plants
say
in
aye.
Mexico. They build all
Aye.
the parts and
All
manufacture
those
98%,
opposed,
and
no.
then they ship it back to put the
In
2%
the opinion of the
in.
chair, the
Oh,
noes
okay.
are the ayes have it, and the amendment to the amendment is agreed to.
In 2016, 11.5 million firearms,
There are
a
no-
31-year
well, do we have the
high.
other
From
one done yet?
2009 to 2018, the U.S. manufactured an average of 8.4 million guns a year.
Suspend briefly. Thank you.
Wow. That way they can be called Made in America. Oh, right, Jim. Okay, because they do some of the piece work in another country, but then they send it back for the final. Blah, blah. Got it. Got it. Okay, we're probably going to move on to a different hearing. Oh, hold on. Let me see. Let's see. Wait, are they? Yeah. There is an appropriations, let's see, federal investments in education. I want to see who's, oh, poopy poop. A subcommittee on labor, health, and human services, education, and related agencies. We can check in on that, and then we can always come back to this because they'll be talking about different amendments. But we'll probably hop over to, actually, let me do this now as we do this. La 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 la, because this one hasn't started yet. This is the one I was thinking of. Federal investments in elementary education. Obviously, I love, how I love education. So I kind of want to hear this one. Let's see. USA has more guns than people. That makes sense. You beat me to it, Paul. Hi, butterflies. Hi, oomph. And the guns, for the most part, are smarter than the people. Ba-dum-bum. That's a good one. Yeah, it's true. Anyways, so
Gentleman is recognized.
Whoopee.
Mr. Magaziner, you're recognized.
I'm
All
back.
right, so again, we've accepted Congressman Jimenez's change.
You
It
are the
basically
scholar. I am the
changes
rapid
language
Google
to- I'm
search
sorry.
king. Paul
It says
Langan.
violent incidents, including racially, ethnically, anti-Semitic, and religiously motivated. So
Sounds good to me. Anyone want to make comment about the revised amendment?
No, I don't think that kills enough people.
We need the clerk to report this new version of the amendment.
That's what the lawyer said.
Amendment
Ms.
by
Here.
Representative Seth Magaziner to the Committee on Homeland Security Oversight Plan for the 119th Congress. Page 5, line 35, strike anti-Semitic after incident. Page 5, line 36, insert, quote, racially, ethnically, anti-Semitic, and religiously motivated violent extremism, including, end quote.
Does anyone wish to speak on the amendment? If there's no further debate, the question is on agreeing to the
3% of
amendment
American adults
offered
collectively own
by Mr.
130
Magaziner.
million
All those in favor say
firearms,
aye.
half
Aye.
of the
All
nation's
those
total
opposed, no.
stock of civilian
In the
guns.
opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
They have a
and the
bunch of
amendment
plants in
is agreed to.
Torreon, Mexico. I didn't know that. I did not know
There are
that.
no further amendments on the roster. Are there any amendments to the oversight plan?
But what's the gun violence in Mexico? What's the level of
Question
the gun
now occurs on the
violence
adoption of the
in
oversight
I honestly
plan.
don't know.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no.
I mean, I imagine every country
In
is
the
pretty
opinion
much
of the
lower
chair,
than
the
us,
ayes
right?
have it,
Are
and
we
the
the
motion
lowest
is
country? Are
agreed
we the
to.
highest country in gun deaths?
Pursuant to notice, I
out.
now call
Hold
up
on.
H.R. 1000, the Cyber Pivot Act. The bill was circulated in advance and printed copies are available. The clerk shall designate the bill.
H.R. 1000, to amend the Homeland Security Act of 2002 to provide for education and
All right, we're
training
not
programs and
the-
resources
we're not
for
the top.
of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency of the Department of Homeland Security and for other purposes.
Okay, it's
Without
Brazil.
objection, the first
We're
reading of
number
the bill is
2.
dispensed with, and it's considered read and open to
2019.
amendment at any
In
point.
2019.
I recognize myself for 5 minutes to
Over
speak
Brazil.
on the bill.
Brazil's number 1. We're number 2.
Just 5 short
Mexico's
months ago,
number
we
3.
convened here to mark up H.R.
India's number
1000,
4.
the Cyber Pivot Act.
Interesting.
It's a striking
I don't know what the
coincidence
gun
that
issue
the
is
bill
in India.
number
That's interesting.
1000 so closely echoes our goal of training 10,000 cybersecurity professionals per year.
I
I'm
clicked
hoping
on
that's a
something
good
and
sign.
it took me to an Amazon ad
Addressing
for
the
a
nation's
gun.
nation's
That's weird.
cyber workforce shortage has been a top
You guys are
priority
weird.
for me since I assumed this gavel.
The top 14%
and I
of
know
gun
I'm
owners.
not the only one passionate about this issue.
8 and
It is a shared
140 guns
priority
each. The
which
average
enabled
is
us
17.
to pass the Cyber Pivot Act out of committee unanimously last year with a vote of 27
A quarter of
to
American
0.
adults are gun owners.
Cybersecurity is often
Wow.
viewed as one of the bipartisan areas where Congress can get things done, and our
Wow.
committee is often complimented for the serious tone we bring to cyber discussions. Indeed, it isn't often that a witness endorses the bill of the opposing side in the middle of a hearing, something we saw just 2 weeks ago. Ranking Member Thompson, our level of bipartisanship on cybersecurity has always encouraged me, and I hope we preserve this bipartisan spirit as we mark up the Cyber Pivot Act again today. Given the bill flew through
Really?
committee the last time,
Lisa,
we
there's a trick if you start
introduced the
Google
same
search with the
bill
word fuck,
with
it
2 small
filters out the
clarifications
AI
about
answers.
eligibility.
I love
Ranking
that.
Member Thompson, I truly appreciate your support and collaboration on this bill. As you said back in September, and I quote, "I'm glad to see his focus on this important issue before Congress. I appreciate the chairman's willingness to consider democratic..."
I'm sorry. Excuse me, Chairman Green. I want to hear about this education thing.
I look forward to working with the administration over the next 4 years to make improvements to the overall system. While we may hear calls
Yes, Brazil's
from,
number 1
some in this
and we're
room
number
today
2.
for more
In
federal
2019.
funding on K through 12 schools, the data tells another story.
World population.
The federal
movie. I should
government
probably find it
appropriates
good.
$19 billion annually for block grants to states for Title I K-12 schools. During the COVID pandemic, Congress appropriated an additional $190 billion for K through 12 schools. On average, federal funding compromises less than 10% of the state education budgets. In recent years, total federal and state per pupil spending on education has skyrocketed. I think we all have to be clear, taxpayers are spending more and more on education, but getting far less results to the students. We need to pause, assess our efforts, and that's exactly what this administration is attempting to do. We have a big challenge ahead as we
Let me
turn
find some
to
good stats.
look at student success. As it has often been said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting that you would get a different results. Well, over and over again, Congress has opened its credit card, and the efforts are not improving the outcomes. I hope this hearing that we have this morning will help highlight why we cannot simply continue to expect more federal support to drive better outcomes in K through 12 education. Before I turn to my ranking member, Ms. DeLauro, for her remarks, I would like to introduce the panel. First, we have Ms. Virginia Gentles from the Defense of Freedom Institute for Policy Studies. Welcome. She will share with us the challenges facing our schools, students, and parents today. Next, we will hear from Dr. Lindsay Burke, who is Director of the Center for Education Policy at the Heritage Foundation, and her focus is on K-12 education reform and school choice.
Fuck
Glad to
her.
have you here. We'll also hear
Get out of our
from
kids.
Ms. Starley Coleman, President and CEO of the National Alliance for Public Charter Schools, about the strong academic outcomes that charter schools are yielding for students despite limited federal funding.
Oh, this is
And
going to make
last,
me
and
mad,
certainly
isn't
not
it?
least, we'll hear from Mr. Robert
This is going to make
Kim,
me mad, isn't it?
from the Education Law Center, whose expertise includes civil and education rights law and policy. So thank you to each of our witnesses for coming here today and sharing with us.
Oh my God.
We, as members of Congress, we want to demonstrate
That's
the
funny.
respect and courtesy that you deserve, and this subcommittee will have ample opportunities to engage in vigorous debate over the size and the scope of federal funding. But
Oh, really?
these witnesses that we
Will we?
have here today are going to share with us information within their particular areas of expertise. And I look forward to giving them the opportunity to do that. I would now like to turn to the committee's
wait.
ranking member, and also who serves as the full committee ranking member, Ms. DeLauro, for any comments that she would like to make.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for holding this hearing on how our investments in elementary education have demonstrably improved outcomes for children and how ending those investments would jeopardize the future success and prosperity for millions of young Americans. I might add, just as a note, Mr. Chairman, that last week, Elon Musk canceled the NAEP survey, National Association for Education program, National Assessment for Educational Programs. He canceled the NAEP survey, and you referenced NAEP in your remarks, and that survey for 17-year-olds. So we apparently are not concerned about student data any longer. I want to extend my thanks as well with a warm welcome to our witnesses, Ms. Gentles, Dr. Burke, Mr. Kim, Ms. Coleman. Welcome to the Labor HHS, that's Labor, Health, Human Services, and Education Appropriations Subcommittee. This hearing is on an incredibly important topic, but I must begin by underscoring that these are not normal times, and we cannot continue business as usual. In fact, the topic of this hearing ignores the outcries of the American people. Because today, House Republicans want to discuss investments in education, while Elon Musk and President Trump are illegally terminating Department of Education funding. The American people are calling our offices every day, asking about the illegal spending freeze and about what has happened to already appropriated funding, keeping in mind that the power of the purse resides in the Congress and within this Appropriations Committee. It does not reside with the executive or with somebody who has been deputized by the executive to have the power of the purse. Neither one has that power. Republicans owe the American people real answers about when their disrespect for the law will end, and not more pretending that this is business as usual. Furthermore, we are on the cusp of an executive order to dismantle the Department of Education. An unelected, unchecked billionaire has already done untold damage to our nation's ability to collect, to analyze invaluable information on school performance, including and especially for our youngsters in elementary school. Earlier this month, Elon Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency terminated $1 billion in education department contracts and awards, and that includes dozens of contracts awarded by the Institute of Education Sciences. That is the department's independent research and statistics panel that tracks school performance nationwide. Without IES's critical work, parents, educators, and policymakers are in the dark when trying to compare student and school-wide achievement. Elon Musk is taking a wrecking ball to the welfare of children in schools and their ability to learn. It's unconscionable. I believe it is immoral, and above all, it is unlawful. And that's only where they began. President Trump reiterated that his top goal for his Secretary of Education nominee, Linda McMahon, was to, and I quote, do a great job and put yourself out of a job, end quote. I refuse to let these hearings distract us from where Republicans want to take public education. The Department of Education is fundamental to the American dream, and that will be demonstrated by our hearing today. So let us begin. Today's hearing was called by the majority to re-examine a question that has, in fact, been settled for decades. Does money matter when it comes to elementary and student outcomes? Some of my Republican colleagues claim that additional funding for our public school does not improve outcomes, a claim with no basis in reality, and one that is, in fact, at complete odds with ample scientific examples. A 2018 review of research on the relationship between education spending and student outcomes, this was by Northwestern University, I didn't make this up, found statistically significant positive results for students in 12 out of 13 studies. Similar, do I have the studies? Yeah, I have them right here. These are the studies which debunk this notion that we're trying here to examine today about student outcomes. So similar studies, Texas, Wisconsin, California, other states have also found that increases in school funding improve student outcomes. Common sense. Funding that puts more teachers in classrooms
Almost
to serve
penultimate
students from low-income backgrounds
example.
yields positive results. So that raises the question, why would anyone advance a baseless claim that has been debunked over and over again? I believe, as the majority's fiscal year 2025 labor HHS education bill showed, House Republicans are following the Project 2025 playbook and helping Elon Musk reach Project 2025 stated goals of eliminating the Department of Education illegally stealing lawfully appropriated federal education funds, eliminating Title I, which is the cornerstone of our federal investment in public education and which supports 25 million students nationwide. Let us look at that widely debunked claim again, specifically as it relates to Title I. In his paper, Follow the Money, School Spending from Title I to Adult Earnings, end quote, renowned economist Dr. Rucker Johnson found that, and I quote, increases in Title I funding are significantly related to increases in the likelihood of graduating from high school, reductions in both the likelihoods of grade repetition and school suspension or expulsion, more years of completed
cool,
education, higher earnings, work hours, a reduction in the annual incidence of poverty in adulthood, that's ages 30 to 40, and a reduction in the likelihood of ever being incarcerated by age 35. The effects on educational outcomes are more pronounced for children for poor families, end quote. Of course, these
That's a
findings and
good
others were only
question,
made
Neil.
possible
Does the
thanks
fuck
in
trick
part
only work
to
for
grants,
Google?
contracts, and studies administered by the Department's Institute of Education Sciences. So let's end the institute and not have the data. Perhaps it explains the unlawful and reckless termination of $1 billion in research grant contracts. When this administration finds facts inconvenient, they simply try to change the facts or silence the source. What is even more baffling is that the Republican attacks on public education are wildly unpopular. There is no mandate to remove teachers from the classroom, but that is where they're taking us. A recent bipartisan poll commissioned by All for Ed found that 58% of voters oppose eliminating the Department of Education, while just 29% support such a reckless move. A whopping 68% of voters agree that, and I quote, we should increase funding to improve public schools so that they better meet the needs of students for the jobs and careers of the future, end quote. With only 24% supporting a contrarian view that, quote,
Does it
we
shoot
should increase
stitches,
funding to
Jim?
give parents
Ba-dum-bum.
vouchers so they can send their child to the
I
school
think
that
they
best
are,
meets
Iggy.
their needs.
I think they
Selling
are.
vouchers as school choice, quote, school choice, is a misnomer.
Hello.
The real choice in the equation goes to private schools.
There you
Who
go.
can choose to reject students that do not come from well-to-do families. And then what happens? Where should those students go? 9 out of 10 students in our country attend public school. I implore my colleagues across the aisle, stand up for the majority of Americans who reject the premise of this hearing, who oppose the actions Elon Musk and Russ Vought are taking to make Project 2025 a reality. Stand up for 50 million children who attend public schools in rural, suburban, and urban school districts across this country. In the meantime, we need to get our work done. We are nearly 5 months past the end of the fiscal year without a labor, health, human services, and education bill that can become law. But the funding cuts in the 2025 labor HHS education bill that has been proposed by the majority would take a wrecking ball to programs that ensure elementary school students ever have a chance at achieving that American dream. From K through 12 education, the majority put cuts of $8.6 billion on the table. Where are they seeking to exercise their so-called fiscal responsibility? Nearly half of that cut comes from Title I, which would result in thousands of teachers being kicked out of classrooms. I do not believe the American people want larger class sizes, fewer teachers among them, but that is exactly what House Republicans aim to deliver. They have also found savings by eliminating programs that help young children learn English, programs that provide grants to state and local education agencies to help schools meet their state academic standards, and programs that provide grants to help students grapple with ever-mounting stress and pressure. Disheartened, to say the least, to see my colleagues take aim at the programs that help their own constituents advance their education, programs that improve the livelihoods of children and their families. And when we sit down to negotiate a full-year funding bill that can reach 218 votes, which the House Republicans' proposal cannot, I look forward to protecting investments in Title I, ensuring a quality elementary education does not become the purview of only the wealthy. This committee, this Congress should be focused on finishing full-year appropriations bills. We now stand less than 4 weeks away from the March 14th deadline without so much as a top-line agreement. The American people are demanding help with the cost of living, the single biggest issue they are facing, and we can do that here. This committee has incredible power to change lives, to help the middle class. We can help make education affordable, to make it easier to succeed in the workforce through our funding bills. Unfortunately, the pressing need to finish full-year bills is not even the most urgent challenge to our federal education priorities. The Department of Education, created by an act of Congress, funded by appropriations bills passed by these Congressmen, signed into law, and they are laws. They are not directives, they are laws. Ensures that no matter the wealth of their family does or does not have, or whether they have a disability or other disadvantage, every single child has the opportunity to obtain an education. It is the embodiment of what Horace Mann called, and I quote, the great equalizer.
He stole B.B.
The role of the
Raposo's,
Department
yeah.
of Education is crucial in securing the opportunities and rights of every student in
BRB.
America. Instead of shoring up our investments in American students, Elon Musk plans to follow the Project 2025 playbook, turn public education over to the highest bidders, the wealthiest families, and he is doing so with the cooperation and the capitulation of House Republicans. Families and communities across the country are reeling from multiple crises in classrooms, skyrocketing costs, learning loss, achievement gaps, educator shortages, and epidemics of loneliness and of school violence, and they are looking to our elected officials for solutions. Government of the people, by the people, for the people, cannot be replaced by government of billionaires, by billionaires, and for billionaires. If we want to eliminate the Department of Education, I say to my colleagues, then put your name on a bill to do that. Let your constituents see it. Let us debate it. Let us and the American people deliberate. Do not yield our authority and the rule of law to unchecked billionaires. As we will discuss today, elementary education is an irreplaceable prerequisite to economic mobility in this country, and our federal investments play an irreplaceable role in ensuring the promise of an education is fulfilled for every child in this country. What we cannot do and what we will not do is to retreat from our children's education altogether. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you, Ms. DeLauro. And now I'd like to turn to our witnesses. You have each been allotted up to 5 minutes to deliver your opening remarks. Of course, your written testimony will be included in the full record. So we'll just start and we'll just go down the line. So Ms. Jennings, we'll start with you, and you have the floor.
Chairman Adderholt, Ranking Member DeLauro, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name's Virginia Gentles, and as a parent of 2 school-aged children, a product of public schools,
Defense
and a
of
former
Freedom
federal,
Institute.
provincial, and state education bureaucrat, I've had a front row seat to the American education system's challenges and how it harms students. When I worked for a former subcommittee member in the late 1990s,
Max, it's kind of cool,
only
though.
31% of 4th grade students and
Kind of
33% of
badass.
8th grade students were proficient readers. I wrote talking points for my boss, lamenting alarming test results, and I met with organizations pleading for more funding. They got their wish, a reliable
did you
stream of
ask the
ever-increasing
teachers?
federal education funding and steady employment for
Did you
federally
think
employed
to ask the
and often
teachers,
unionized
Virginia
adults.
Gentles?
Federally funded and
You
unionized
stupid
adults.
bitch.
But where's the evidence that the money truly benefited students?
Blah, 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 blah.
Despite dramatic increases in annual education funding and the $190 billion in COVID-era supplemental funds, student outcomes are historically low, and the achievement gap is widening.
Why don't you
Our
ask
country is
teachers why?
experiencing an undeclared crisis in education. NAEP scores have declined for over a decade and plummeted after COVID-era school closures.
All right, why don't you ask
There is no
teachers?
state in the country where the majority of students are performing at grade level in math and reading. If more money was the
Why don't you
solution,
ask
why
teachers?
are 94% of elementary and middle schoolers living in districts that haven't returned to pre-pandemic achievement levels? Despite the vast
What's
sums
wrong with
poured
these
into the K-12
kids?
system for learning
Why are they
loss
so
recovery,
dumb?
70% of
Oh my
students
God.
aren't reading or doing math proficiently, and 40% lack basic math and reading skills.
Why are you looking
These
at her?
struggling fourth graders don't know the difference between
fuck's wrong
odd
with you?
and even numbers.
Do they track
And the
homeschool
eighth graders
outcomes?
can't find the
I know.
midpoint between two numbers on
Yeah,
a number line.
go gentles back to your
Alarmingly,
cave of
only
not
2%
knowing.
of black
No
eighth grade
wisdom.
students in Milwaukee are proficient in math.
Oh,
These scores
well,
are
what are you going to do
heartbreaking,
about
and
it? Why don't you
students
ask
likely will never
teachers?
catch up.
What do they need? What
Our
do
education
teachers
system
need
is robbing
to be
children
successful?
of the future they deserve. Every
Anybody
indicator
ask them?
shows that it is broken.
They have a lot of great
This
ideas.
ongoing systemic disaster reveals that the U.S. Department of Education
maybe
has
audit all the
failed
educational
to
apps.
fulfill its
Oh my
mission to
God.
promote student achievement and preparation for global competitiveness. By imposing onerous regulations and reporting requirements, as well as a ceaselessly shifting political agenda, the bloated department makes it harder
excuse
for the
me?
people closest to students to do their
Excuse
jobs
me?
well.
Excuse me?
Title I funding began flowing from the federal
Virginia
government
Karen and
60 years
gentle
ago
lighting.
as part of the 1965 Elementary and Secondary Education Act. So
Mhm.
15 years before the Department of Education was created.
Okay.
The program's formulas have become increasingly complex. The monitoring requirements
Okay.
have burdened states and districts,
Okay.
and each level of government takes
You
a
want to
hefty
reform
cut
the data
of the
reporting?
18 or
I'm all
19
for
billion
that.
in annual
That
funding,
caused me
while
actual
low-income
tears.
students continue to struggle.
Trying to figure out how to
Ensuring that all students have access to
generate
high-quality
the data they
education is a
needed.
worthy goal. Pretending that Title I in its current form has met that goal is foolish.
Oh God!
The federal
I'm
government
aware
passed
of
the
a
law
kid who does
currently known as the
homeworky stuff
Individuals
on
with
an app that
Disabilities
had two
Education Act,
refreshing
IDEA,
ads.
50 years ago, so 5 years
Ads,
before the creation
always
of the
on
US Department of
display.
Education. The $14 billion in annual IDEA
Yeah,
funding
teachers
fuels a
work
mammoth
really hard.
bureaucratic labyrinth
And
that
there's
too
some
often
really
harms
smart
children
teachers.
with disabilities, while
Yeah.
forcing
She wants
students
to get rid
hire
of
lawyers and
requirements? I'm
sue
confused.
in order to receive
I am
federally
totally
promised
confused.
accommodations and services. Special interests like the school unions exacerbate our nation's academic crisis. In 1979, the National
unions.
Education Association
Make
pushed
child
for
labor
expanded
great
federal
again.
control of education and the creation of the U.S. Department of Education.
Damn. What
During
I've
the
seen of Christian
pandemic,
homeschool
the
curriculum is
national unions
alarming.
pressured
Yeah,
the
no,
federal
it's
government
bad.
to
Remember
keep
we had
schools
that little
closed.
piece.
And today, state and local unions are closing schools with strikes, blocking tutoring and reading training, and even protecting sexual predators in K-12 schools.
Stop it.
Recent coverage
Stop
of
yourself.
a Michigan union contract revealed that
Stop
teachers
yourself,
can be drunk
bitch.
on the job 4 times
Oh my God.
before a union member can be fired.
Yeah, the hair dryer thing.
So
Yeah.
what should be done?
That's right.
We know the
Max,
answer is
I
not
remember
pouring more
that.
federal funding into a fundamentally broken
She's
and
opposed to the
union-controlled
Disabilities
K-12
Act
system.
compliance funding or
Academic
regulation.
outcomes are
Yeah.
worse than when I was a 22-year-old congressional staffer. Instead, we should empower states and families.
To
State
do
leaders are
what?
responding to the academic
Have
crisis
you seen
by
how
improving
states
literacy
handle shit?
instruction and expanding
It's not
education
great.
freedom. Tennessee just created a
It's not
statewide
great.
education savings account program that will serve 20,000 students initially, with a priority for low-income students and students with disabilities.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Congress should
Are the
consider
private schools
redirecting
going to
federal
accept
funding
them?
and passing a federal tax credit that would
Are
supplement
we going to require
state-based
private
school
schools
choice
to do a
programs.
lottery system
Additionally,
and have a
combining
certain
federal
percentage of
education funding
low-income
streams could
students?
reduce ineffective
Are
reporting
we,
and
Ms. Gentles?
resource-intensive monitoring
Have you
requirements,
planned for
allowing
that?
states to allocate taxpayer dollars in a
Or
more student-centered
will they be allowed
Let's
to
stop
reject
pretending
students
that the status quo is
they don't
working.
want?
It's time for a new approach that prioritizes
No,
the
it's
needs of
not.
students.
You're bullshit. You didn't talk about students. You didn't talk about teachers. Fuck you, cunt. Get the fuck
Thank
out of
you.
here.
My name is Lindsay Burke. The views I express in this testimony are my own and should not be
Yeah.
construed as any official position of the Heritage Foundation. Thank you, Chairman Adderholt and
Whatever.
Ranking Member DeLauro, for the opportunity
You
to testify
already
today.
are fucking
Washington
Nazis.
has
I
been
can't.
on an education spending spree for decades. Throughout the 20th century, inflation-adjusted per-pupil spending increased 3.5% per year every year. Education spending
What's COLA?
on a per-pupil basis has more than tripled
What's
in real
COLA?
terms since 1965.
Jesus
the year Lyndon
Christ.
Johnson launched his war on poverty, which included unprecedented new federal spending on education. Federal, state, and local spending each more than doubled per pupil in real terms since the Department of Education was created in 1980. And on top of general revenue increases over the past half century, public school districts have also been the recipients of an unprecedented influx of taxpayer funds in the wake of
me
COVID-19.
too.
Congress allocated $190 billion across 3 appropriations, the largest infusion of cash to K-12 education in history. This was 2.5 times the Department of Education's annual budget. To paraphrase Ronald Reagan, we don't have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. So how is this money spent? Massive increases in spending have largely financed an ongoing staffing surge. Kennesaw State's Ben Scafferty has documented that from 1950 to 2019, while the number of students increased 100% in the nation's schools, the number of teachers increased 243%. The number of non-teaching staff increased 709%. Teachers make up just 47.5% of all school staff today. Perhaps we would not care about increased spending if it accompanied increased growth in academic outcomes, but it has not. After an exhaustive review of the literature, Stanford economist Eric Hanyashek found that there's, quote, no strong or systematic relationship between school expenditures and student performance. As
Actually, I
Hanyashek
can see
explained
much
in
better now, so
2019,
that's actually
quote,
really helpful.
While there is some small movement up and down over time,
Librarians
the
do
remarkable
get
aspect
high.
is that reading and math performance in 2012 looks virtually unchanged from 4 decades
actually,
before.
I don't want to wear glasses.
Additionally, the gap between the
It's too much
top
with the
and bottom
headphones.
decile of students by family income, the 90-10 gap as it's known, remains the same as it was when the war on poverty began, the equivalent of 4
Oh my God,
grade
I can tell
levels
you
worth
about
of
the
learning.
education guidelines, okay?
As Harvard's Paul Peterson explains,
Okay.
quote, the
gotta
stability
pull
of
this
these
up.
gaps over such an extended time
hearing
period
of
is
the subcommittee-
striking. We do not find a closing of the gap at some point over the time period only to see it reopen up again. It does not narrow during the Carter years or the Reagan years or during the boom years of the 1990s.
Look at all the
or
money
after
we
the
spent
passage
on
of No
kids
Child
and they
Left Behind,
disappointed
or at
us.
any other specific
Damn it.
point throughout those 5 decades. The gap is amazingly unwavering. End quote.
Fuck.
So what's a better
Wait, what
path
was I going to look
forward?
up?
In 1998, the seminal Education at a Crossroads report was published after an exhaustive
Yeah, you're either
series
at the
of
table or
state
on the
hearings,
menu, yeah.
an examination into the effect of federal
Oh,
involvement
that's what
in
I was looking up.
education. Several key findings came out of that report. Federal involvement in K-12 education has led to a, quote, program
go.
for every
Oh.
problem mentality.
Is it?
It has led to shadow state-level departments of education with 3 times as many federally funded employees in state agencies as at the federal Department of Education, tasked primarily with administering federal education programs. The Crossroads report documented how federal programs and spending
that's
had
not it.
created, quote, a cottage industry in selling information on program descriptions, application deadlines, and filing instructions for each of the myriad federal education programs, end quote. It detailed how millions of man-hours were required every year to complete the federal paperwork burden created by the Department of Education. And to add insult to injury, it found that as little as 65 cents on every federal dollar ultimately made its way back to the classroom. The conclusion of the Education at the Crossroads report was as salient in 1998 as it is now. Quote, it is time for the burden
Salient.
of proof to shift from the
Salient.
federal government if it cannot be demonstrated
Wait, where
that a
is this? Why isn't
particular
this
federal
opening? Oh, there it
program
is.
is more effectively spending funds than states and local communities otherwise would spend them. Congress should return the money to the states and the people without any burdensome strings attached.
Where's the money
End
going to
quote.
come from? Because I don't think
Since
he
the war
wants
on
us to
poverty
pay
began,
like,
taxpayers have spent
from
nearly
tariffs?
$3 trillion on K-12 education just at the federal level alone. Given the state of American education
Get it.
today, more federal spending has not been the ticket to improving outcomes for students. It's time to chart a different course. Thank you.
Chairman Adderholt, Ranking Member DeLauro, and distinguished subcommittee members, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Robert Kim. I serve as the Executive Director of Education Law Center, a nonprofit organization whose mission is to support and advance public education and the rights of students nationwide. I also served during the Obama administration as Deputy Assistant Secretary in the U.S. Department of Education's Office for
That's the
Civil
New York
Rights.
State standards for
I'd like to begin my
elementary
remarks
reading
by
standards.
underscoring the stakes of today's
This
conversation
is their
on
curriculum
federal
guide.
education funding. Millions of
New York.
American families and thousands of school districts
You have
in
to actually
every
interpret
state
this
rely on these funds
as an
every day
administrator.
to receive or provide critical education services. I'd like to touch on 3 points regarding federal investments in our nation's public schools. One,
So
money matters
administrators
in
and teachers
education.
do a lot of work
2,
to
the
interpret
federal
these
role in
standards into
education
actual
is
curriculum.
critical. And 3, a vibrant
Just so you know,
public
there's a lot
education
to it.
system is
There's a
vital
lot to
to our
pedagogy.
nation's prosperity and global standing. On the first point, researchers overwhelmingly agree that increased funding boosts student achievement and other life outcomes. Even Dr. Hanushek, a leading expert associated with the Money Doesn't Matter camp, concluded recently that there was a positive and statistically significant relationship between education spending and not only improved test scores, but improved high school completion and increased college attendance. In addition, studies show that adequate school funding leads to other gains for students, such as increased adult wages and life expectancy, and
They don't
decreased
hand you a
contact with the
curriculum.
criminal
You
justice
actually
system.
create
In short, sufficient
against
funding
these
really
standards,
does
and
make
it's not
a difference in education.
It's not simple at all.
Second, the federal role in education is
And
vitally
you teach to the
important
test.
to reduce inequality and bridge opportunity and achievement
We
gaps
spend
among
an
students.
entire
States
spring
and districts rely
semester
on federal
teaching
funding
to the
varying
test so
degrees,
seniors will
but in
fucking
every case, the
pass.
federal contribution is significant.
The regions.
For example, the 17 members of this subcommittee
Which is the state test in
alone
New York.
represent 1.3 million public school children attending schools within your congressional districts that receive $3 billion annually in federal revenue, according to the latest available data. Drops in such funds would be devastating to your constituents, and the same goes for every member of Congress. At the department, I experienced firsthand how the federal government works to expand and ensure equal educational opportunity for the most vulnerable students. Key federal programs and initiatives include supporting schools serving high percentages of low-income students,
No, I
rural
don't.
education,
You know what? I don't
parent and
listen to
family
NPR as
engagement,
much as I should
school
because I just
safety,
don't encounter
literacy
radio,
development,
and that's where I would normally
effective
listen
instruction,
to them. So I should
grants
probably
for
do that
teachers and school leaders,
So I don't know.
arts education, gifted and
No,
talented
Lisa, you're not
education,
repeating yourself. You're telling the
expanding
truth.
pre-kindergarten access, career and technical education, supporting
Yes,
charter and magnet schools,
yes.
as well as promised
Well,
neighborhood and full-service community
I think
schools.
we could figure out how
and
to
addressing
integrate
the needs
public
of our
with
most
what the
vulnerable
charters
students,
are doing.
students living
you
in
know?
poverty, homeless
Like,
and
as a
migrant
former
students,
charter public
Indian,
school
Native Hawaiian,
person.
and Alaska Native students, students with disabilities, and multilingual learners, and so on. Also, I cannot overstate the importance of 2 additional functions of the department: research evaluation and data collection, and civil rights enforcement. Cuts in education, research staffing, and contracts limit our ability to monitor educational progress, identify and evaluate the effectiveness of education strategies and programs, and ensure sound use of taxpayer dollars. And freezes or cutbacks in OCR staffing and
Wait,
civil
that's
rights
gonna
enforcement
complicate
have
to mention
impacted
that.
already thousands of parents trying to secure services for their children or to protect them from harassment or discrimination at school. We must not let the dismantling
And I'm gonna
of
tell you right
critical
now,
department functions continue.
I shed
Finally,
actual
it is
tears
so important that
about
we preserve
reporting.
and enhance public education in
But
America. Proposals
it can
to
be
shift federal
reformed.
education funding streams for public schools to private school vouchers, including through ESA accounts and other mechanisms, are dangerous for multiple reasons. The negative fiscal effects of vouchers alone are huge and have accelerated at an alarming pace over the past 3 years. We see the effects of this already in states like Florida and Arizona, where hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars are being spent on vouchers, while public schools in those states are among the lowest funded in the country. These trends stretch state budgets to the max and threaten their ability to maintain high-quality public schools that are free and open to all students. So in conclusion, I urge every member of this committee to support a strong federal role in and funding for public education,
Segregation.
which is so critical to our nation's
That's what it is.
prosperity
It's
and to our
racism.
democracy. Thank you very much.
Whoops. Your white sheet is
Chairman
showing.
Adderholt, Ranking Member DeLauro, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the invitation to be here today. I'm Starlee Coleman, the President and CEO of the National Alliance for Public Charter Schools. Across the country, more than 8,000 public charter schools serve a diverse student body of 3.7
This was
million
the
students.
type of school I ran, a
46
public
states
charter.
have passed legislation allowing charter schools to
I
open.
don't know who she is.
And over the last 5 years, public charter enrollment has grown 12%. And charter schools are delivering results. In 2024, the Fordham Institute and the Progressive Policy
There's no
Institute
time, Lisa.
both
That's the
found
point. There's
that
no
when charter
time to
schools
teach them
open, students
some of
in
the.
traditional
There's a lot of
public
things I would
schools
love to
also
fit into the
thrive.
school day.
Their research shows that students in
can't.
both charter and
I've
traditional
tried.
public schools perform better in reading and math in communities where charter schools exist. This is true in both urban and rural communities. There is currently one program in the entire federal budget dedicated to advancing school choice across the country, and that is the Federal Charter Schools Program. The modest federal investment in this program provides startup funds for new charter schools until state funding kicks in when students arrive on campus. And while the CSP doesn't come close to covering all charter school startup costs, it's a catalyst for advancing one of the most successful, bipartisan, and in-demand education reforms in American public education history. While charter schools have become part of the fabric of urban education, it's important for you to know that suburban and rural charter growth is surging. The CSP is vital to our ability to meet parent demand for public school options in these
I love
communities.
this trend.
A CSP grant in Idaho is seeding the growth of charter schools founded and run by retired military leaders, including an Air Force colonel, an Army major and
coloring
lieutenant colonel,
project.
and a Marine Corps major.
Yes.
In Texas, several classical curriculum charter schools have enrollment waitlists numbering in the thousands, including my own child. And a CSP grant is helping those schools open more campuses. In Alabama, the CSP provided startup funds for the Alabama Aerospace and Aviation High School in Bessemer. The CSP
I have
is
something to
the
say about this.
way
I don't agree with
for
her.
you to show parents in all states and communities,
I
red and
love
blue,
these.
urban and not, that you are listening and investing federal funds in programs they want and that work. At the same time, we must be honest about what federal funds alone cannot do, and that is overcome bad policy or practices at the state and local level. Public schools, district and charter, are coming off historic budget highs, and no reasonable person can look at the most recent NAEP results and say that all we need is more money. More money alone will not improve student outcomes.
I don't want to
If
do this.
schools are using unsound instructional practices, money won't help. But making a change to move to sound practices takes money. Federal funding can be a powerful incentive to reform state and local policies so they result in better outcomes for children and keep our best teachers in the classroom. And yet, you must strike a careful balance of not micromanaging states and schools. This may seem like a contradiction. Demand results, but don't micromanage. Funding alone won't solve our problems, but we can't fix them without it. This is nuanced work that doesn't lend itself well to sound bites, but it's the needle this committee must thread. Here are 3 guiding principles that might help as you think about future K-12 funding. Number 1, use federal funding to support students most in need. 2, use federal funding to expand proven and promising strategies that are increasing student learning. 3, use federal funding to show parents that you are listening to their demand for public school options. As a mom of a public school student, I want to acknowledge that you have a hard job.
You
It's
have a
hard
hard
to know
job.
how your decisions
Yeah.
will trickle down to
I'm
my little
sorry.
girl's classroom in Austin, Texas.
I know where
but
she's
they do.
coming from.
And moms like me are
And I'm
counting
not actually
on you
buying
to
it right
thoughtfully
now.
balance the need for resources with the need for sound policy and the need for the decisions, as
I
many
like
of the
these.
decisions as possible to be
I
made
like
as
these.
close to the children who are
Resistance
being
coloring
served.
book. Oh my
Thank you for the
goodness.
opportunity to be here today.
Thank you. All right, well, we will go ahead and start with our
All right, let's see. That's such a cool
questioning,
idea. I want to see
part of
my
the,
guerrilla
hearing.
messaging idea was to have a
Of
quick
course,
script
as
to
always,
say on the
we
PA
will,
in big
each,
stores like Walmart.
member
Karen,
will
that's
have
such a good
5
idea.
minutes, and to allot up to 5 minutes to ask any questions. And of course, I try not to be too strict on that because sometimes you're in the middle of
Oh, I hate those
question
types of
or
letter,
an
junk
answer,
mail,
but
Max. I
certainly we
fucking
want to
hate
be
it.
respectful to other members on the subcommittee.
Those
and
are
so we want to,
adorable.
acknowledge
Fuck
that.
Trump.
So let me
That's
start.
so
I'll begin with
cute.
myself.
I'm
Ms.
gonna
Gentles,
look for that. That's
Our
great.
students and parents have been through a lot over the last 5 years, especially during the pandemic years.
Yeah, no
And
shit.
the latest
No shit,
NAEP,
sir.
Scores paint a dismal picture. As you mentioned, in addition to your impressive career in education policy and your work on the Hill, you're also the mother of 2 school-age children.
Nobody cares.
Can you
Nobody
highlight
cares.
or maybe
I don't
talk
know.
about some of the particular challenges
Oh, cool.
that students
okay.
and teachers
Okay,
and
I can
families
find that.
are experiencing in K through 12 education?
I loved
And
my
number
IBM
2,
Selectric
what
at
are
work.
some
That was the
specific
best
areas where you believe that schools have moved beyond
typewriter
what their
ever.
core mission was to do? So, please.
Yeah, happy to speak to this issue. My children have attended both private and
Congress
public
is the
school.
worst
They were
reflection of
enrolled
education
in
in
our local
this
school
country.
district when the school district closed schools in
Oh my
March
gosh,
2020, and I ended up pulling them out of the district when the district
That's
refused
right.
to open
'Cause they want 'em to
in the
mask.
21 in the next school year, 20.
This woman doesn't believe half of what she's saying.
So huge problem that I think that we've alluded
Yeah,
to here
Karen.
today is the fallout from those school closures. Not the fallout from the pandemic. A germ, a disease did not cause historic academic failure. The way that the education system,
people
the
wanted to
K-12
keep kids
system handled
alive.
it, caused that. So
Okay.
I would say we will face the fallout from that, from the school closures, from the disruptive quarantines.
Wow. This
and
bitch
from
is
the,
really drinking some
the general
major
policy
Kool-Aid.
afterwards to abandon homework, to lower standards, to just do anything that they could to even try to get students back. Because we are facing double the rate of chronic absenteeism now in this post-pandemic era. So a whole generation is going to be dealing with that. I did want to go back to what I said about IDEA. We cannot pretend that it's working as is. And so when we're talking about the 8 million students, 15%, I believe, of our nation's students, receiving services or supposed to be receiving services and accommodations under IDEA, we have to acknowledge that that is broken and that we don't have enough special education teachers. So special education teachers should be compensated well and treated well. We need them in this system. Another thing that we need to address is our literacy crisis. The scores are
There's just
horrific.
nobody can read.
40% of students below basic, while only 30% are proficient.
Have you asked
That's
teachers?
a new reality.
No?
And I was thankful that I
Bueller?
did have the opportunity to pull my children, well, I taught my children to read
Oh,
using the
yeah.
Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons book, which I recommend to all parents. Parents need to be in the driver's seat, take responsibility for that. But I also am thankful that
This woman
they
is a
are in private
bitch,
schools where
okay?
literacy
Here's the thing.
is emphasized.
This is
So we need
always
to
what
address
confuses
how
me.
teachers
I'm
are taught.
single, okay? And not that I
when
want
it
to be
comes
married,
literacy
because I'm really
instruction, what are
good
the ed
on
schools doing?
like having my
And
life.
what is
However,
what does
I
that look like
constantly
in the
am
classroom?
confused
And then
by
you
the people
mentioned,
who are
schools
the
getting
objects
off
of
track.
others' affection.
That was another thing that we've seen trend-wise.
And how
Unfortunately, my children are
fucking
protected from that because they are in
cunty they are.
faith-based private
just-
schools at this
I'm
point.
really not- I'm
But,
not a cunt.
Too many
Like,
educators
I-
viewing themselves as
I
activists
don't-
rather
I'm
than
not.
educators, instructors, and getting caught up
I
in
don't
whatever
know.
the latest thing is
Yeah.
of the moment.
Parents should
rather than
exercise their
focusing on core
responsibility by
academic instruction.
adopting
I
this
think
one
parents
book
are-
on how to
are
read
done
that
with
is
and
named
hopefully
How
we'll
to
see a
Read in
turnaround
100
that
Easy
trend soon.
Steps. What?
Let me, before my time expires,
Why are you so red?
to the subcommittee.
Why are you so red, sir?
Just briefly,
Yes, Neil's here, or he
talk about
was.
what
I'm not
you
sure
were
if he
seeing
still
in the
is.
Data on how it's showing that regarding hiring trends in schools.
Iggy, this C-nut.
both for teaching and non-teaching staff.
Thank you for that question, Chairman. So if you go back to 1950, and I alluded to this briefly, there were
Here's another one.
2.36 teachers for every non-teacher in a school district in America. Today it's 1 to 1. So stated differently, for every teacher you see in a typical district in America,
What are you
there's a
calling an
non-teaching,
administrator?
largely administrative counterpart.
What are you
And so I
What are
mentioned
you
that
calling an
100% increase in the
administrator?
number
That's
of
not
students
true.
in public schools across the country, and that there was a 243% increase in the number of teachers. And I would just reiterate a 709% increase in the number of non-teaching staff from 1950.
Okay, I want to know what you're calling non-teaching staff, cunt. I really do.
Teachers that are actually in the schools.
47.5%.
All right.
Can you tell me?
time has
Because
expired. I'm gonna turn to
there's
Mr. Lolo.
something that's disinformation.
Thank you,
That
Mr.
is
Chairman. Just a couple of
spinning
points. I think during
something
the-
without all of the
the
context,
pandemic, I think it was
so that you
President
think a
Trump who
certain
was
thing.
at the helm during the pandemic. I think it's interesting that once again we're just quoting the NAEP survey, and we have a crowd of folks at the moment who want to just eliminate NAEP and the ability to make an assessment, which as for you to draw your conclusions from. It just seems to be mindless to do in the agency that can give us the information as to whether
And I
scores
say
are going
reform
up
the
or whether they're
fucker,
going down,
okay?
in which we can make some judgments.
Reform
and which this
it.
committee can make
I
judgments
don't
as to where we
care.
go.
Do it.
Anyway, the education chapter of President Trump Project 2025, authored by Dr. Burke, proposes to eliminate the Department of Education, cancel Title I over 10 years.
Yeah, we get
and
some
convert
Steny
what's left of
Hoyer
federal
today,
education
too.
programs
Yeah,
into a,
bitch.
quote, no strings attached block
Solve fever. Ban
It would seem
thermometers.
from the testimony that Dr. Burke
Remember
and
when
Ms.
he said
Gentles
don't
view
count the
mere presence
cases?
of any
Remember
federal
what? Remember
requirements
that?
unappropriated
Remember when
funds
he
as
said don't
burdens,
count the
quote,
cases
burdens.
and then the case count
When I
won't be
consider
high?
the programs that this subcommittee
I
funds
remember
each
that.
year under education laws.
Oh, here we go.
like
Here's the design
IDEA,
for the
individuals and
resistance
with
coloring book.
disabilities education. I see programs that guarantee fundamental civil rights to students with disabilities, the right to a free, appropriate public education, individualized education plan, parent and student participation. Dr. Burke and Ms. Gentles, I am concerned that you confuse essential protections for vulnerable children in education programs for, quote, burdens. My question is to you, Mr. Kim. You were responsible for safeguarding the civil rights of students with disabilities during your tenure at the Department of Education. Can you explain to parents of children with disabilities across this nation what it would mean if Elon Musk, President Trump, and House Republicans got their way and turned IDEA into a no-strings-attached block grant?
I have
Thank
to go
you,
get the dog,
Ranking
but I'm
Member,
gonna.
and thank you for the
Here's the
question.
link to their.
Let me just start by
Etsy, or
saying
to
that
the
we don't have to go back
Etsy
very
shop. I'll
far
just do
in
that.
history to know what things were like for students with disabilities. Even prior to around the time of 1970, just going back a little bit in time, only 1 in 5 students with disabilities was educated in public schools. There was a problem here where students with disabilities were labeled as emotionally disturbed, mentally retarded, often shuttled to hospitals
go
or
walk the
asylums.
doggy, BRB.
So we know that IDEA, when it was passed in 1975, as well as other civil rights laws in the early 70s, tried to reverse this and increasingly integrate students with disabilities into the American education system. IDEA funding is very specific and very targeted to support students with disabilities. We have Part B of the IDEA grant, which is intended to help states and preschool programs provide for special education and related services. We have Part C, which really is to support early intervention for our youngest children, infants and toddlers with disabilities. And it's critical in that part of the grant to expand enrollment for underserved infants and toddlers, including children from low-income backgrounds and children living in rural areas. And then there's also a part of the IDEA which is targeted to help prepare special educators, funding that is so crucial at a time when states and districts have a lack or shortage of special educators that are well-trained to meet the diverse needs of all learners. So block granting would lead to a lot of bad results here. It would increase the risk that funding doesn't go toward these specified purposes. There would be a lack of accountability over the use of funds. I would also mention that IDEA has long been underfunded, and so what we need to be doing is to get to the authorized levels of IDEA rather than going in the reverse and block granting, which history shows, and we've seen studies, that when you block grant, not only does the usages get diverted to other purposes, but the actual amount for that program goes down because Congress becomes more skeptical that the uses for that grant are being used in a way that was part of the intent of the original legislation. And so overall, the funding goes down, the amounts, the usages get dispersed away from these targeted goals. And I think that ultimately harms children with disabilities and getting them the essential services that they need.
Is it true that the federal government has never met their obligation in terms of providing resources for the IDEA? I can't remember the percentages offhand, but we have never met what we established as the goal between the federal and state match.
That's right. That's right, Ranking Member. The amounts have never come close to the 40% authorized level.
And 40% of
yes.
the authorized, 40% of the authorized level. We have never met that goal. Is this right in terms of the number of about 7 million students with disabilities? How many children we're dealing with disabilities?
I believe so. I could get you the exact numbers, but we know that that number, it's high and consistent across districts, that every district has significant percentages.
So that in fact, they could be essentially losing what their rights are in terms of what we have passed with the IDEA legislation, and turning that around. And we all know what block granting means. We don't have to be educated with that. Everybody on this committee, both sides, knows what block granting is. You take it, you send it, and it's less money, and you don't deal with federal resources. Just make one more comment. My time is long overdue. But this is a pattern we're seeing. Yesterday there was a vote on a budget reconciliation package. With the end result of that would be in terms of Medicaid funding, which again would affect kids with disabilities. So it seems to be a pattern here. Thank you, Mr. Kim. Yield back.
Dr. Harris.
Thank you. The only pattern is misleading from, by the other side. That's the only pattern that's clear. So let me discuss some of the things. Look, if our education system were succeeding with increased funding, this has been true year after year after year, we probably wouldn't be having this hearing. But the fact of the matter is, our public education system is a dismal failure on the world stage, a dismal failure. You can look at the OECD numbers, you can look at all the numbers versus our competitors. We don't compete, period. And if we hope to compete, on the global stage, we better fix this problem. And more money and the Department of Education is not going to fix it. You know, someone on the other side of the aisle said, "Well, put your name on a bill if you want to delete the Department of Education." My name's on the bill. We don't need the Department of Education. So why is the Department of Education failing? Well, because it spends its time, instead of promoting reading, writing, and arithmetic, old-fashioned as that might be, because we're dismally failing on the reading and arithmetic part of the NAEP, which I'll get to in a second, it spends its time promoting gender identity, men in women's bathrooms, men playing women's sports. Yeah, go look. The Title IX regulation was published on a Department of Education letterhead. That's why we don't need a Department of Education, because it's not concentrating on what we should do, which is making sure that our students read and write and know arithmetic. That's what we should be concentrating on. So I'm going to ask the first question, and Ms. Gentles, the OSP in Washington, D.C. You know I'm a proponent of it. I have been for years, since Mr. Boehner left and asked me to advocate for it. Could you tell us what percentage of those people in that program are non-white? Because we did talk about this gap. What percent of that program is non-white?
Non-white in the DCOSP. Yeah. I haven't looked at those numbers for a while, but I feel like it's like 98%.
Yeah, it's either 98 or 99. Mm-hmm. So let me see. This is a voluntary program where a parent who feels their child is not getting an adequate public education goes to a system funded by the government where they have the choice to go to another school. And it's overwhelmingly done by minority parents. Don't we see the signals that what COVID showed to us is that our public school systems aren't in the business of education. They're in the business of supporting teachers' unions, making sure men can go into girls' bathrooms and men can play in girls' sports. That's what they do in the Department of Education. We don't need it. We simply don't need it. Let's talk about NAEP. Any predictions on what the NAEP results would be for this year? Is it going to show us
What's,
stunningly going to
Dr.
number one in
Hairball
international
Suck
competition?
have to
No,
say about
it's going to
himself?
show continued stagnation. And we don't do anything with that report because it showed
What's
that
his problem?
for years.
What's
it
this
shows
bitch's
no
problem?
progress. We do exactly the same thing, and I think the chairman alluded to this. We expect a different outcome. NAEP is a waste of money if you're not going to do anything with it, and we've done nothing
Okay,
with it for years and years.
so you're going to totally
Talk
throw it
about block
out? What the fuck are you?
Why are block grants a good idea? Because Mr.
Thick-headedness.
Kim, we have a $2 trillion budget deficit. We better control
Our
the growth of
education is
spending.
bad,
one
and
way
the
to
only
control
way
the
to
growth
fix
of
it is to
spending and
give up
reduce federal government
entirely.
regulation is block granting it to the states where you trust. And I
You
know this is a foreign concept inside the Washington, D.C. Beltway, that local people actually make better decisions about
They
how to
don't,
educate their
actually.
children.
They don't.
And then in my county of
They don't.
Dorchester County,
And
I
it's a
trust
lot of
my
work.
Board of
Are you
Education.
gonna hire
not
more
the
in the
state Board of
state?
Education, which, by the way,
Do you understand that this is just
supports
transferring the
concept
problem?
of gender identity education
do
in
you
kindergartens
understand-
now
do you
in
understand-
Maryland.
do you understand
and wants to
anything
make
about,
sure that they
education?
restrict the ability of parents
Do you really?
to opt
I
out of
don't
that
think
kind
you
of,
do.
that kind of
I don't think you do. I think you're
I
a
trust
doctor
my
of
local
bullshit.
county much more,
That's
and that's
what
why
Teresa
block
said. I
granting
think.
makes sense.
Right?
Because we can
Teresa,
control
did you
the growth
say
and we can
doctor of
control the
bullshit?
growth
Yeah.
of
Teresa
growth of
said
federal
you're a
spending,
doctor of bullshit.
that
So
way.
we're not going to listen to you.
Finally,
You're dumb.
you said that
Finally,
45%
I'm dumb. I'm
of school
stupid.
personnel are teachers. I don't get it. I thought that's what a school was all about. It's about teachers and students. So you pile on more money, you pile on more administrators, you pile on more regulators.
Oh my
and what do we end up with? Students who can't read, they can't write.
Okay,
and they
so
can't
what are you
going
gonna
to
do about it?
Never compete in a global
What are you going to do about
environment.
it?
It is high
What are you
time
gonna do about it?
that we greatly reconsider what we're
Wow,
doing
that's a great
in the
idea,
Department
Lisa.
of Education
There's a
here,
book of
and we should do it for our
Shakespearean
children. And we
insults.
should do it for the children, for the parents
Yeah, I
of
hope
those
his wife
children
uses
who
too
are in
much
failing
tea
public schools.
tonight.
They are crying out for that. And I'm a full supporter of OCCE included in our budget reconciliation, which will put.
Seems to me that education also includes learning how to be a good human in society
tax
on top of
credits
math and
into our
reading. It
code
certainly
So
does.
that we take the position that
And you
President
know
Trump
what?
has taken. which
As
is
a
every
victim
parent
of data
deserves
collection in the
choice of sending
education
their child
system,
to a successful
I consider myself a
Yield back.
victim. I have plenty of ideas about how to reform the reporting systems.
Well, one could spend a lot of time responding to that,
Yeah, do it, Stenny.
but I don't have the time.
Give it to him.
The
Up the
fact of
butt.
matter
Come on.
is,
Boom.
I hope everybody in this room agrees that we need to do the best we possibly can.
No,
in
Stenny, I need
educating our
mad
children.
Stenny.
Frederick Douglass said
Get mad.
it's easier to educate young people than to repair broken men.
An
Ms.
amazing
Gentles, you,
quote, yes.
I think made a comment that special education teachers, we need to pay more. Agreeing with the concept
All teachers.
that Mr. Kim put forward, that money matters. There is no doubt that money matters. At the
Say it,
local
Stenny.
level and state
Don't piss
level,
on me and tell me it's raining.
education is
That's what I want him
largely
to say.
funded by property taxes. In my view, a very poor form of taxation in indicating what people can pay. At the federal level, we have a much greater ability to fund education and other objects and carry out the concept that our Pledge of Allegiance says that we're one nation, indivisible. And we know that children move from Mississippi to Maryland to Maine to Florida to California with a lot of incidents of that movement. So that we want to have American children educated in a way that they can compete not only with those states, but as Mr. Harris points out, who doesn't want to participate in the debate apparently,
Oh, he called him Mr.
across the world.
Fuck yeah.
And we need to do better. And I
No,
want to
he
thank
came
you,
for his soundbite, Stenny. He's gone.
Ms. Coleman.
He's got to go poop.
Yours was, I think, a very positive contribution to this debate.
Let's be careful
And
about
a
public
recognition
charters.
of how difficult this debate is. Because some of it is focused on who's going into whose bathroom. I ask people at town meetings, when was the last time you were in the bathroom with a man? If I'm talking to women, or when was the last time you were in a bathroom with women? If I'm talking to men. And they look at
For
me like I'm
what?
crazy. Maybe some of you are looking at the same way. Because they,
I mean, I have
how would
plenty
I
of
know?
thoughts about testing and all this
How would
shit
I
that we
know? 'Cause that's
do
the issue. But we
to
spend
crowd
time
the day.
doing politically.
But ask
I was
teachers.
going to say a different word, but
Ask teachers how we do
which
this.
the governor of Utah, a Republican, said was somewhat irrelevant because there were 3 or 4 or 5.
That's what I loved about
people that
public
might
charter.
affect in
It gave
Utah.
me
And
the
you pointed out,
freedom to work
look, we
with
need
my
to deal with all the
teachers.
children.
You know?
I have some
Like that was a
sympathy with
thing.
charter
I could
schools.
work with my teachers.
A, because I think they perform a
We
competitive
could do
role,
things that
which
were
ought to get us
creative.
to higher competition. So I don't have a problem with it.
I had the same reporting requirements
I
as
do
a
have
public
problem
school.
if they become drawdowns of resources on public schools, because public schools have made America great. That's what has made America great. That's the great leveling. Not bringing people down, however. I have a grandson-in-law, I suppose it would be called, who's going to go to MIT. He's 18. He's going to go to MIT next year. He's at public school. He got, I think, perfect on math in the SATs, and I guess a 750 or something.
High
on
school.
The English. He went to a public school. They must be doing something right. But let me ask you, Mr. Kim, quickly, because as I say, there's not enough time to deal with this subject. It needs to be dealt with. We need to do better. We're not doing
No, it
as
was in
well
New
as we
York.
should do.
New York City.
By the way, Mr. Kim, am I correct that we cannot, at a federal level, tell local schools what curriculum they ought to be following?
That's right. The
Yeah,
federal
exactly.
government
My
is
children are in early
statutorily
elementary.
prohibited from
Let him
getting
answer.
involved in or influencing curriculum, and that's been the
No,
case
it wasn't
for
a public
decades.
school. I don't want to identify
In fact,
the
Mr.
school,
Kim,
Paul.
am I correct that if we try to do that, to withhold funds because of curriculum, that's illegal?
That's right. The laws clearly allow the law states that states and districts are the ones that have autonomy and control over their own curriculum. States do
That's right.
most of the work. The federal role
That's
is very
right.
limited already.
That's right.
The states are the ones that manage their operations, hire teachers,
This guy
establish
is
their
so
own curriculum and standards
good.
through their state legislatures.
That's right.
Well, let me, in closing, Mr. Chairman, I know I've gone 23 seconds over, say that I'm a strong supporter of Head Start. I think it ought to be in the Department of Education, frankly, not
Agreed.
Human Services. Kids are at 3 and 4 years old, ready to learn. The first Head Start program that
Start
was
at zero. Come
canceled
on, Stenny,
for
do better.
non-performance from 1965 to 1995, the first one that was canceled was by Donna Shalala in the Clinton administration for non-performance. We need to hold educators accountable because
Oh,
they're
good
doing
luck,
some of the most
Canadians
important things
voting.
in our country.
Good luck to our
We ought
beloved
to have a
Canadians.
positive discussion on it. But I do not see
What your
how
your
doing
votes
away
today?
with a department that is focused on the importance of education
Prayers up
being
for
done away
Canada.
with is accomplishing that objective. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I've always counted on Canada
Thank
for
you,
the
Mr.
better
Chairman, and thank
angels,
you for
and maybe I
holding
took
this
that for
hearing.
granted.
I
Tomorrow,
want
okay.
to just
Well, that's right,
start with
early
just
voting,
sort
sorry.
of some philosophical questions. that I wanted
Ontario
to ask
only.
all
Election
our
tomorrow, the
panelists.
27th. Thanks, Neil.
Do we
Well, good luck to our
agree that it's
Ontarians.
about the kids? Would you answer that question?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, fucking hell. Come on, Molinar. Do better.
And I appreciate the gentleman from Maryland talking about the best we publicly possibly can educating our children. And I think we're all in agreement on that. So I guess the next question I have is, do you believe that parents are the primary educators of their children?
You know,
And should
parents
have
were not
the
the primary
opportunity to
educators
choose the
in
best
my
educational
particular
fit for their
demographic. That's just happened to be parent engagement was pretty low at the high school level.
Yes.
That's not atypical.
Okay. Well, that's impressive. So
What?
if we were in a situation, and I know in our Constitution in Michigan, it talks about a free and appropriate education, a public education. And I appreciate the comments of the gentleman from Maryland that you don't want to take resources from one
Ontario used to be the wise uncle.
group of students. But let's say we were able to fund
Now it's acting like
this
your
group
crack
of students in
addicted cousin
public
who's won a lot.
education, and also able to fund using public dollars this
I
group of
don't know why
educate
that made me laugh so
students
much.
for an education, because those parents felt that they wanted a
Oh,
education
Iggy,
that
I
may
love
have a
Canada.
religious component or
know.
something like that, and it was not diverting money. Would you support that kind of an educational system?
I'm supportive of education freedom.
Okay.
Yes, every dollar we spend should be
It's like
students
vaccine
and follow
freedom.
children to schools that work for them and are the right fit for them and align with their values.
Okay. Why don't you make
There
all
should
schools
always
that way,
be
you stupid
options
ass?
for private and religious education for students. The question here is how do we preserve and advance a public education system? And then, as you mentioned, Representative, to not divert dollars meant for public education to that sector.
But if the funding was there for the public schools, would you prohibit a family from sending their child to a private school or
They can pay for
a
that.
religious school
They can pay for that.
simply based on
That's
you
that
didn't
they
think
can
that
pay
the
for
government
private or
should fund
religious
that?
schools.
If funding is there for public schools, that is the one thing that we're talking about today.
Then they can't restrict their
absolutely,
enrollment.
Parents always have the right to attend. They already legally have the right.
That's right.
To raise
Remove
and
their
educate
child.
their children how they see fit
Yeah.
in any kind of school
Homeschool,
environment,
whatever.
public,
Exactly.
private, or homeschool.
And using public dollars? You would
No,
support that?
because then you
The
have to
primary
adhere to
purpose
requirements for
of
those public
government
dollars.
is to fund education and what I think
It's
the
because
focus of this
private
hearing
schools
is how
won't
important
allow
is it
all
to
students.
preserve
God
and
damn
If I
it.
could interrupt you a second.
That's
I
how
feel
you
like you're
get
dodging
public
my
funds
question.
is you adhere to
I
certain
mean, you're an attorney.
demographics
You're
and
probably,
understand how you get.
trying
Oh,
to figure out a
I
way to
hate
say
this
you do
so
not
much.
support public dollars going to a private
You're a
school.
fucking
Is that
dumbass.
a fair statement?
If they
It's
have
not
the same
fully,
standards as a
there-
public
there's
school
nuance
and the
to that
same
because there's
enrollment
always,
and a
public
lottery
dollars that
and a
go
required
toward
number
private
of
education. For
low-income
example,
students,
with our
yeah,
student loans,
sure.
They help students go to private schools
Fuck
as well,
off,
and many
sir.
private institutions receive that funding. So it's not a unilateral question that I can answer in that particular way.
All right. Ms. Coleman?
I believe
Well
that those
said.
decisions should be made at the state and local level, which we're seeing all across the country today.
That's right.
And
That's
then
right.
There's something called a Blaine Amendment. Are you familiar with a Blaine Amendment? Or does that sound familiar?
Yes, that was an anti-Catholic provision that was put into many state constitutions during
Yeah,
a very
because
ugly time in our
Christian
nation's history.
Do you
schools
believe it's discriminatory?
discriminate against
Absolutely, yeah,
students
it
in
was
terms of
intended to be
entrance.
discriminatory,
Okay.
against Catholics and having their
If you play by different
alternatives
rules, you
to
don't get
the-
to take
the
advantage of public
school,
money.
which was
That's
which
it.
were Protestant schools at the time.
And then
No, I
Yes,
didn't,
I would
Jim.
quote the Supreme Court.
Was
They've
it the
said that
AI
amendment was
video?
discriminatory, that it was, quote, born of bigotry and should be buried today. And thankfully, we've moved in that direction. And 38 states initially had Blaine amendments. If you look at a map, it was largely states out west as Western expansion took place in the late 1800s. More and more states, as a condition of admittance into the Union, had to adopt what were known as baby Blaine amendments. And they stuck around for many, many years, over a century, but now we've finally seen that chiseled away, and we have states across the country
So now schools can discriminate and still get public money. That's what it is, guys. Okay, I'm not fucking going to sugarcoat it.
Funding. And I should add,
That's
public
how it
funding
actually
of
works in
education
the
does
real
not mean
world.
Government delivery of schooling. There's a difference between public education,
Don't you fucking
for the
address
public,
him.
and public schooling.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Fuck off,
I
bitch.
know I'm over my time. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to the witnesses today. I kind of liked how you did that, Representative Molinaro, like the quick questions going across. So I'm going to try that as well. I'm going to try to follow your example. So I think you all would consider yourselves experts in education funding, correct? Just nod your heads is fine for a quick one. You're not so sure you're an expert? I'll ask you the question. What % of education funding could we cut? Federal funding. Just a %, quick and easy. Just a number, not a sentence, a number.
That's up to you. You all are the appropriators.
So you don't have a number. Okay, next.
I'll say 90%.
90%. Wow. All right. That's almost as much as some Republicans talk about genitalia in this committee. Okay. Next, Mr. Kim.
Oh,
I
fuck
suppose
yeah,
I can say
Poca.
a negative
Oh.
number, but I would say 0.
Okay. And Ms. Coleman?
I honestly don't know.
So you know what? I agree with
She plays-
you, those
that's-
who don't
those-
really know
those are the
offhand, 'cause
fence
it's kind of
sitters.
like a general, like
Public
they just throw
charters are
something
fence
big out.
sitters.
Last night, we had a bill in front of Congress that cut 45%, $330 billion from education. Now, Ms. Burke, you know, you think they're halfway there. For everyone else, I mean, I think the problem is it's not an easy thing to do, because if you start going after IDA and Title I funds in places like Wisconsin, where
Which
47% of the
put a link to the
children
Title
benefit
I
from that,
explanation
either you get bigger
in the
class
chat earlier.
sizes or fewer teachers for students, or you're just going to shift that to the property tax. So we're already going to steal essentially, you know,
Teacher pay
trillions,
will go
$4.5
down.
trillion dollars from the middle class and those aspiring to be. To
There's
give
not
a
gonna be
tax
enough
break
money.
to
I'm
Elon Musk
sorry.
and Donald Trump and everyone
You're
who
gonna
belonged
have
to
schools
Mar-a-Lago.
close.
But now we're going to also transfer some funding potentially to their property tax that people already just got stolen from, so they can pay even more, but through a different form of tax, so that Elon Musk and Donald Trump and all those people who belong to Mar-a-Lago get a tax cut. So I just was interested, because you are experts. I consider you all experts on education
I
funding.
am like
appreciate your
running through
honest
my weed
answers on that.
supply.
There's one area that I do,
I am
and
not
Mr. Kim,
pacing
you brought it
myself.
up, I want to do a little deeper dive on, on vouchers. And I really think there is a difference between public charter and private charter schools. So I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your comments as well, Ms. Coleman. So thank you for that.
There
but,
is,
you know, Wisconsin
but
was one of the first states
there's a
that tried
but.
this experiment. And it didn't go so well, to be honest. You know, originally we gave funding to schools where people who
Ours
opened
went
up
well.
schools said they could put their hand on a book and read it. They put money towards Cadillacs. They didn't, you know, use it for education.
that's
There's
kind
been
of
all
a
kinds
you
of problems.
problem,
But right now,
but
state
okay.
after state, the studies have shown 75% of the people who get vouchers already have kids in private schools. So that's more tax policy than education policy. Once again, we're back to tax policy and dealing with that. Also, in recent state voucher programs in Arizona and Florida, families with the highest income brackets got those vouchers. So it kind of runs counter, I think, to what we're trying
Correct,
to do around
Lisa.
public
Old people will petition to
education
have
make
that
sure that
assessment
everyone has
category
access.
removed at the state
In
level.
Milwaukee,
That's what will
when we
start to
actually
happen
did
is
studies on this,
education
we
will then
found
be
that,
defunded at the
rates
state
of
level.
students who exit their voucher schools approaching 20%
Oh my God, we
annually,
need so much
and
more
that,
pay for
many of those
teachers.
former voucher students saw academic improvements when returning to public schools.
Yes, it
So
does
we've
happen
been
already.
doing
You're
this
right, Lisa.
massive, I would call scam to private schools. I think it's very different for public, Ms. Coleman. So just know when I say that, I'm putting a big asterisk on this. But
Well,
there's a lot
it's
of
kind
schools
of
that
halfway.
aren't performing very well.
I
We
think
also
there's
had
an
a study
argument to be
in
made.
Milwaukee that showed that there was no better performance levels. In fact, likely just the opposite in certain areas like math in other states, right? So my question, Mr. Kim, is, you know, there's a directive by President Trump to put even more funding into transferring this. But if this is going to people who already are sending people to private schools, we're not getting any better performance out of these schools. And ultimately, these are folks who have the most wealth by all the studies we have. What exactly are we doing in this experiment?
Thank you for the question. Vouchers are spreading at a rapid pace throughout the country. There are 13 states right now in which any student, no matter whether they've ever been to public school, can use taxpayer dollars to attend private school, to be homeschooled, and so forth. And so there's a lot of issues here. One is the amount of state resources, and then if this federal law moves forward, then there would also be federal resources and programs. They take money away from the public system and convert them to uses for the private sector. Now, nothing against the private sector, but here's what's happening. Vouchers transfer those monies. They're actually overwhelming for state legislatures. Once you start a voucher program, we see this in Arizona, the money spent for that, required for that program was 10 times above the estimates for the expenditures of that program. Most of them already paying for students already in private schools, as you mentioned. And when we have these programs and a massive transfer of students
Title
from
I
public
funding
to private,
is a very
what else goes out
complicated
the door
grant
there?
process.
Accountability, teacher standards, what students should be taught according to
It is a
academic
huge
standards
task
that the state
do
has
Title I
autonomy in the public
reporting
school
and
system
grant requests.
to prescribe or
Wow.
to set forth what is important to
Scale,
be taught in
people,
education.
scale.
And civil rights goes out the door too, because in many cases, federal civil rights laws are either limited or non-existent as applied to private schools.
Oh, this
so
man
we lose
is just
accountability. We
a
lose the
god.
ability to ensure equality and
Thank you, Mr.
free
Kim.
and openness
Thank you.
of any student, no matter what their background, no matter what their sexual orientation or gender
I gotta
identity.
clip this guy. I'm
no
gonna
matter
clip
what
this,
their disability.
I'm gonna clip a clean
status
copy of his
no
speech
matter
now.
whether they have learned English growing up or not. And this is what we are transferring the public system into, is that unaccountable system. And I will also add that in voucher programs, when the money goes and the resources and of the state fisc goes toward that sector, you also lose the ability under federal laws to ensure that states maintain their own contributions to education. Because
There's no oversight.
many of our federal laws, they require,
I know it's by
not only here
design,
we're
but
going to help you out
I
for
don't know
your
if
most
everybody
vulnerable
really
students,
gets
but we're
that.
going to require that you maintain your effort in those areas yourself as a state. And without the ability to do that, not only does the federal money eventually go down for education and state money, but the state's own contribution goes down for education. And this is a snowball effect that we can't let happen in this country, because every competitive industrialized nation in the world has a strong and vibrant public education system. We do not want to go down the road of Chile or Sweden, where there's an erosion of public education and a transfer to a private system that is not free and open to all students.
No, thank you, Mr.
God
Kim.
bless
Mr. Chairman,
you,
I just think
Mr.
I'd be
Kim.
remiss if I didn't say in Milwaukee over a 15-year period,
bless you.
41% of these schools failed, and the average school only lasts about 4.5 years. So thank you for all your comments, Mr. Kim.
I had no idea that
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and
those
thank you
of
for
those
the
data
witnesses
points.
for being here this morning.
That is brilliant.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk about K-12 funding. First, I want to say that it was mentioned earlier, Ms. Gentiles, that providing resources for teachers is important, and I want to reiterate that. We need to empower them. Certainly with special education teachers, they deserve kudos in every way, shape, or form, because it is a difficult job. I also want to give a shout out to my sister-in-law, who is a teacher at a charter school in Oklahoma City, who does remarkable work. And so thank you for acknowledging our teachers. The Department of Education, and it's sort of been mentioned here earlier, has expanded way beyond its original intent. When it was established in 1979, it was intended to provide targeted support, not to dictate education policy from Washington. And Mr. Kim, you just talked about accountability in vouchers in states. The reality is states should be holding their districts accountable. Parents should be holding their districts accountable. It's interesting to me that we're asking Washington to hold my state accountable.
Have
I don't
you
want
worked
you to
in a
do
school?
that. I want
Have you tried to
give those dollars
have
to my
you
state
tried to get,
and let them do what they do best within their districts. You talked about block grant funding goes down and doesn't actually get to the student. You know why? Bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is the reason that those dollars
you're
don't
not
get down
solving
to
that
the
problem,
student.
stupid.
You've seen programs
You're not
like No Child
solving
Left
that by
Behind,
giving them less
ESSA, and
money or
others that,
decentralizing it. You're making that
requirements
problem
to get those
worse.
dollars are so stringent that states have to
You're making
file
that problem
exemptions
worse.
to be able to get some of the dollars because they can't meet the criteria. It doesn't make any sense. I
No,
wanna
it makes
reiterate
a
one
lot of
point.
sense, actually.
We keep talking or hearing about student funding being slashed by
Oh, right, when we
Republicans. That
bring
is
our
not
A case to the
happening.
school board meeting.
Let me just say this one thing. States
All right,
and
all right. Paul
localities
Langan,
provide
calm down.
86%
Calm down.
of
Calm
school
down with the
funding.
racial, any racial
86%
references. I don't want
is
any
coming
of
from
that.
the local communities to
I
fund
don't want to go
education.
there.
Federal overreach
you can
has had
insult the
added
politics
bureaucracy,
of everybody.
restricting
I
local
want to stay away
decision-making and
from
limiting
some
school flexibility.
characters. I don't know.
And
I just want to
despite
be
increased
thoughtful
federal spending,
about our
student
language.
achievement
Okay.
has not improved. And we heard that from
I love
Dr.
you
Harris
guys.
earlier. NAEP scores are declining.
It's the
gaps in
provinces
learning
destroying
persist.
public
Schools struggle to
education.
meet
I'm going to tell
students'
you right
needs.
now.
And let me say, this was happening
The difference between
pre-COVID.
states is going to be
COVID
absolutely
has exacerbated that because kids were
All
not
right,
in
all
classrooms.
right, all right,
They were
all
not.
right, all right,
They were
all
trying to
right.
learn via Zoom, which was not effective
Anyway.
for most students. The solution is not more federal
What is the
funding. It
solution?
is smarter policy and less regulations.
Oh.
We need to ensure that federal dollars where they are needed are spent efficiently
What?
with a focus on results. Why not incentivize states who are doing exceptional work? Why not reward them
With
for
what?
good behavior?
More money?
That's the kind of thing we should be looking at. We need policies that
What is happening
prioritize
right now?
accountability, flexibility, and most
happening
importantly,
right now?
student success. A couple of questions,
my
Ms.
God.
Gentles.
It's
I want
all
to ask
this.
you, in
It's all
what
that.
ways has federal oversight restricted local schools from implementing effective reforms?
Warning. You're an
We've been talking
idiot.
about onerous and burdensome reporting.
I'm gonna
and
keep playing this
monitoring,
through these
and
ladies.
I do think we
So-
need to be clear that in some states, we hear figures like 50% of the staff is allocated to just filling out those forms that go into some drawer somewhere in the U.S. Department of Education, and nothing's ever done with that.
Oh,
So
no.
that increase in
All
the
right. Okay, hold on. Another warning. Hold on.
Warning.
I know.
Last week, President Trump put out a Truth Social today saying that everybody in the cabinet was happy with you. I just wondered if you had heard otherwise, and if you had heard anything about members of the cabinet who weren't happy with the way things were going, and if so, what are you doing to address those any dissatisfaction?
You let the cabinet speak just for a second.
Yeah, exactly.
Is anybody unhappy with Elon? If you are, well, throw them out of here. Is anybody unhappy?
Oh, look at Robert.
I have a lot of respect for Elon and that he's doing this.
Look at all
And
the-
some
now
disagree
talk
a little
about
bit, but I will
a
tell
lot
you,
of
for the
white
most part, I
people.
think everyone's not only happy, they're thrilled.
That's a lot
So
of white
go ahead,
people.
Elon.
President Trump has put together, I think, the best cabinet ever. Literally. So.
Is he sitting at this end of the table? Oh, no, he's standing.
This is an incredible group of people. I don't think that such a talented team has actually ever been assembled. I think it's literally the best cabinet that the country has ever had, and I think the company should be incredibly appreciative of the people in this room.
Okay, well, everybody, here's your tissues
President, thank you, Mr.
to
Musk.
clean yourselves up.
About half of the government employees so far appear to have responded to your request for what they've been doing over the past week. Is there a timeline in place for next moves for people being fired, and when can the American people expect to see results from that?
Yes. Well, to be clear, I think that email perhaps was misinterpreted as a performance review, but actually it was a
Lee,
pulse
I was
check
thinking
review.
the same thing.
Do you have a pulse? Do you have a pulse and 2 neurons? So if you have a pulse and 2 neurons, you can reply to an email. This is, I think not a high bar, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, Fuhrer.
Should be, anyone could accomplish this. But what we are trying to get to the bottom of is we think there are a number of people.
Look at the guy's head, looks like he's
who
sitting
are,
on fire.
Dead, which is probably why they can't respond.
They got the screen hacker.
And some people who are not real people, like they're literally fictional individuals that are collecting paychecks. Well, somebody's collecting paychecks on a fictional individual. So we're just literally trying to figure out,
Are you
are
kidding
these
me?
people real? Are they alive?
Stop
and can they write
it.
an email?
This is so,
Which I think
everything
a
is
reasonable
disrespectful about
expectation,
this.
For the American public would have at least that expectation of someone in the public sector.
Mr. Musk,
Yeah, well-
roughly a million
This is it's not a high bar, guys. Come on.
No, it's stupid.
responded so far to this email. Does that mean that the remaining 1 million or so federal employees now risk being terminated? And is it your understanding and expectation when you post a directive on X that the cabinet secretaries will follow that order? Because several agencies have instructed employees that this is voluntary or not to respond.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I guess there was
like last week, the president encouraged me via Truth Social and also via phone call to be more aggressive. And I was like, okay, yes, sir, Mr. President, we will indeed do that. The president is the commander-in-chief. I do what the president asks. And I said, can we send out an email to everyone just saying, what did you get done last week? And the president said yes, so it did that. We got a partial response. We're going to send another email. But our goal is not to be capricious or unfair. We want to give people every opportunity to send an email. And the email could simply be, what I'm working on is too sensitive or classified to describe. Like literally just, that would be sufficient. I think this is just common sense.
And what is your target number for how many workers, employees you're looking to cut total?
We wish to keep everyone who is doing a job that is essential and doing that job well. But if the job is not essential or they're not doing the job well, they obviously should not be on the public payroll.
I'd like to add, wait. I'd like to add that those million people that haven't responded, though, Elon, they are on the bubble. I wouldn't say that we're thrilled about it. They haven't responded. Now, maybe they don't exist. Maybe we're paying people that don't exist. Don't forget.
Then it sounds like it's a pretty efficient, what?
But those people are on the bubble, as they say. Maybe they're going to be gone. Maybe they're not around. Maybe they have other jobs. Maybe they moved and they're not where they're supposed to be. A lot of things could have happened. I wouldn't say that Biden ran a very
Yeah, and he's going to pop the bubble.
Spent money like nobody's
Yeah,
ever
Lisa,
spent money
that's a good
before.
idea.
Wasted
Sound
money.
off.
The Green New Scam, all of the different
Yeah,
things they spent
there's
money
dead
on.
voters.
And you've seen that. You've seen that with
They're the
some
same
of the
people.
things that I read in
They're the same
speeches. I
dead
read them and
voters,
people can't
Gal.
believe when I
Same
read
people.
them. 20 million here, 30 million here for, a little educational cost on
Condoms
something.
for
Circumcision,
Muslims.
Right? Circumcision.
Circumcision
$20
for
million
Muslims.
to inform the people of such and such a country on other things and other things other than that. So, those people are, right now
Yeah,
we're trying to find
Carrie,
out who
on
those
the
people
bubble,
are that
like
haven't
level,
responded.
as in
Now, there'll be
construction?
some agencies, like Marco has people within state that are right now doing very classified, very confidential work, and we understand that. We've talked, and, we're being a little more surgical.
Paul Langan,
And
you are in a
Marco's
mood
doing a lot of
today.
things himself.
Why are you
He's,
spamming
and
my
some of
chat?
the
Come on
secretaries,
now.
We're going to be going to them. We're going to be talking about it today. We're going to ask them to do their own Doge. In other words, they'll look in their group and I spoke with Lee Zeldin, and he thinks he's going to be cutting 65% or so of the people from environmental. And we're going to speed up the process too at the same time. You had a lot of people that weren't doing their job. They were just obstructionists, and a lot of people that didn't exist, I guess, Lee, too. You found a lot of empty spots.
I know.
People weren't there. They didn't exist. I think education is going to be one of those. You go around Washington, you see all these buildings.
Dan
with the Department
Scabino.
of Education. We want to move education back to the states where it
The
belongs.
blood-filled tick.
Iowa should have education. Indiana should run their own education. You're going to see education.
Elon has
go
finally
way up.
found the
Right now,
zombies.
We're ranked at the very bottom of the list.
What is that
but we're
pocket
at the top
square
of
and
the
tie
list in one thing,
combination
the
on
cost per pupil. We spend
Pete,
more money
hold
per
my
pupil than
Hennessy
any other country in
Hegseth.
the world. And yet it's Denmark and Norway, Sweden, and I hate to say this, and we're going to get along very well with China, but it's a competitor. They're at the top of the list. They're among the top 10 usually, and they're a very big country, so we can't use that as an excuse, right? Because we're a very big country too, but we were ranked last time under Biden. We were ranked 40 out of 40. They do the 40 certain nations that they've done for a long time. It seems
Wait,
to be 40 for whatever
What are we talking
reason.
about? 40 out
And
of
we were
what?
ranked
For what?
Number 40.
For
A
what?
year ago we were 38. Then we
For
were
what?
39. We hit 40.
For what?
And
Did I miss
so
that?
we're last in that, and we're first in cost per
What, did I miss
pupil.
something?
So I would say that's unacceptable. Lawrence, you have something? Go
So,
ahead.
Mr. President, I know you like competition, and I know it's early, so which department
Is this Lawrence
are you
Terrell?
most impressed with? And then to this
Is that Lawrence Terrell? No, Leo Terrell. That's right. They
Which
made him
department have
a.
you received the most resistance from?
Oh, it's a press. I'm
Well,
sorry.
I
I
think
thought it was
both
one
of
of the
those
cabinet
questions
people.
are a little bit, well, you're a pretty controversial guy. Look, it's very early. Right now, I think I'm impressed with everybody, so far everybody. If I wasn't in the first month, and some of them just got here, they just got approved 2 days ago, right? But I think I'm very impressed with everybody. So far, I'm very happy with all of the choices. I think that Elon has done incredibly with some groups, and some groups are much easier than others. It is true. State is a, very difficult situation. We're right now negotiating very successfully, I think, with Russia and with Ukraine, and we have a lot of countries involved, and we have to be a little bit careful what we do and who we're terminating. But Marco is doing that I think he's going to be very
Wait,
precise.
what?
It's going to be,
Oh,
we're cutting
people.
down government. We're cutting down the size of government. We have to. We're bloated. We're sloppy. We have a lot of people that aren't doing
Oh,
their
like
job. We have a lot of
firing all
people
the
that don't
nuclear
exist.
scientists sloppy?
You look
Like
at
that
Social
kind of
Security
sloppy?
as an example. I mean, you have so many people
What do
in
you
Social
think?
Security where, if you believe it, they're 200 years old. And what we're
Now,
doing is
did we?
finding out that checks
What's the
going out for
debunk
that,
on
and
that? Is that
somebody
like
cashing those
survivor
checks.
benefits or just
Who's
like
maybe
one of those
35 years
date
old,
errors
okay?
that they always
So
have?
there's a lot of dishonesty. There's a lot of fraud.
I mean, I know there's a
But
debunk. I
think
just
at this
haven't
moment,
bothered to
I'll
look it
take
up, to be
Elon
honest
off
with
the
you.
spot. I think that he's impressed. He said it very well, better than I can say it, that he's impressed with the people in this room, very impressed. And I am too, and it's too early to say, but I think everybody's on board. They all know. We want
That's
to
the way
balance
you
a
talk.
budget. We want
That's
to
the
have
way
a
you
balanced
sound.
budget within a reasonably short period of time, meaning maybe by next year or the year after, but maybe even sooner than that.
Mr. President, your number one issue was the border. We just got new information that they're doxing our federal agents. They're putting their personal information out there, these activists, and they're disrupting the operation. So you got Trinidad Alger running all
Well, we
across
have
the country.
activists, that's true, and a
So
lot of
what are we
those.
gonna do about the activists?
Yeah, a lot of those activists are acting illegally, and we'll give that to our Attorney General, and she'll take a look at that very strongly. But we also having tremendous support from Border Patrol, from ICE. The ICE agents have been unbelievable. Border Patrol, their leadership at Border Patrol has been incredible, and they're working very well. And as you know, and I saw you reporting it this morning, actually, we set records on the least number of illegal aliens coming in, migrants coming into our country that we've had in more than 50 years. And we did this all within a period of weeks because we took over a mess. The world was pouring in. And remember, they were coming in from jails and prisons and mental institutions and insane asylums, and they were gang members and drug dealers. Anybody wanted to come in, they came. And from not just South America, from all over the world. So it's amazing what they've done. And Christie and Tom Holman, the job they've done has been absolutely amazing. We set records for and we want people to come into our country, by the way, but they want to come in, they have to come in legally. I want that to be really understood. We want people in our country, but they have to come in legally.
Can I follow on that, Mr. President, about the Trump Gold Card idea that you unveiled yesterday?
I hope you liked it.
I have way more information, but the question is, does this reflect a view on your part that the American immigration system has never been properly monetized as you feel it should be?
Well, not so much monetized. It hasn't been properly run. I get calls from, as an example, companies where they want to hire the #1 student at a school. A person comes from India, China, Japan, lots of different places, and they go to Harvard, the Wharton School of Finance, they go to Yale, they go to all great schools, and they graduate #1 in their class. And they're made job offers, but the offer is immediately rescinded because you have no idea whether or not that person can stay in the country. I want to be able to have that person stay in the country.
That
These
sounds
companies
crazily
can go and buy,
specific.
a gold card, and they can use it as a matter of recruitment.
Who pays for
At
the
same
gold
time,
card?
The company is using that money to pay down debt. We're going to pay down a lot of debt with that. And I think the gold card is going to be used by, not only for that, I mean, they'll be used by companies. I mean, I could see Apple. I've spoken with Tim Cook, and by the way, he's going to make a $500 billion investment in the country only because
What is he
of
gonna do?
the results of the election. And I think because of
What?
tariffs. He's going to want to be in the country because of tariffs.
Hey,
Because
Tim
if
Cook,
you're in
fuck
the
you.
country, there is no tariff. If you're out of the country, you got to pay tariffs. And that's going to be a
I
great
never
investment, I
met
think, that he's
Tim
making. I
Cook.
know it's going to be a great investment. But We have to be able to
I think he just
get people in
cleans
the
up
country, and we want
after the
people that
morning
are,
yank,
productive people.
runs
And
his
I will
fans
tell
through
you,
his
the
hair.
people
That's
that can
all about
pay
Mary.
$5 million,
Something
they're
about
gonna
Mary
create
here.
jobs. They're going to spend a lot of money on jobs. They're going to have to pay
It's a
taxes on
special
that,
hair
too.
gel.
So they're going to be hiring people. They're going to be bringing people in and companies in. And I don't know, maybe it will sell like crazy. I happen to think it's going to sell like crazy. It's a bargain.
Sell like
But,
crazy.
we'll know fairly soon. I think Howard and Scott.
That's right, he doesn't wash his
really are
hands.
responsible for it. But, Howard, if you want to
I think we
discuss that
cracked
for
the
a couple of
code.
minutes, I think I'd like to have you. I think it's going to be a very successful program. This is
Oh
commerce.
God, Howard is such a fucking
So the
douchebag.
EB5 program, which has been around for many years, had investment of $1 million into projects in America. And those projects were often suspect, they didn't really work out.
No, they were
there
nonprofit.
wasn't any oversight of it. And so
Oh,
for
fuck
$1
you,
million
Howard.
investment, you got a visa and then you came into the country and ended up with a
No,
green
I am totally
so it was
smoking it up.
poorly overseen, poorly executed. Then you had our border open where millions of people came through. So the idea is we will have a proper business. We will modify the EB5 agreement. Christy and I are working on it together. For $5 million, they'll get a license from the Department of Commerce. Then they'll make a proper investment on the EB5. Right, and we think
I
Scott
shared
and I will
yesterday
design
the link to the
investment model
EB5
because Scott and I
information.
are the best
I'll
people
do that
together
again.
to do that. So this is joint. This is exactly the Trump administration. We all work together. We work it out to be the best. And if we sell, just remember, 200,000. There's a line for EB5 of 250,000 right now. 200,000 of these gold green cards is $1 trillion to pay down our debt. And that's why the president is doing it, because we are going to balance this budget and we are going to pay off the debt under President Trump.
And to qualify, do you have to promise and make commitments to create a certain number of jobs
No,
here in the U.S.?
no, because not all these people are going to be job builders. There'll be successful people, or there'll be people that were
Okay,
hired
there's
from
the actual
colleges,
EB5
like,
information
sort of
for you,
paying
and I have a
an athlete a
picture
bonus.
with some very
Apple or
key
one of the
information that I
companies
put
will
on
go
my
out
Blue
and
Sky and my Twitter
they'll spend
yesterday
they'll
from
buy
that
5 of
particular
them, and They're
section.
going to get 5 people. Look, I've had the complaint from a lot of companies where they go out to hire people and they can't hire them out of colleges. And you know what they do? They go back to India, or they go back to the country where they came. And they
Who are
open
you
up
talking about?
a company, and they become billionaires. And they're employing thousands and there are a lot of.
Is this from the
examples. There are
Modi?
some really
Did he
big
have some kind of
examples where
Modi
they were
thing
forced
or
out of
something?
the country. They graduated top in their class at a great school, and they weren't able to stay. This is all the time you hear it. And the biggest complaint I get from companies, other than over-regulation, which we took care of, but we're going to have to take care of it here because a lot of that was put back on by Biden. But the biggest complaint is the fact that they can't have
Get
any
ready for train
longevity with
derailments
people.
again.
This way they
Make
have
train
pretty
derailments
much
great again.
unlimited longevity. Also, with the $5 million, that's a path to citizenship.
Oh my
So that's gonna
God.
be- It's sort of a green card plus, and it's a path.
It's a
to
pat. We're selling
We're calling it the
citizenships
gold
now.
card. And I think
But
it's
that's
gonna
not
be very fortunate. I
monetizing.
think it's
Don't
gonna do
worry,
very well,
folks.
and we're going to start selling, hopefully, in
Don't
about
worry.
2 weeks. Now, just so you understand, if we sell $1
I
million.
think Marco is on a
right,
lot
million,
of Xanax.
That's $5
That's my
trillion.
rumor. I'm going to
$5
start that
trillion.
rumor.
Howard
Bye,
was
Carla.
using a
You
different
left
number,
earlier. I'm so
but
sorry,
that's
darling.
$5 trillion.
Oh, I'm a terrible
If
person.
we
I
sell
love you
10
so
million,
much.
Which is possible. 10 million highly productive people coming in.
I know.
or
What's the matter?
people
Is
that
it
we're
weird
gonna
that
make
none of the
productive.
other
They'll be
cabinet
young,
members
but they're
mentioned they
talented, like a
directed
talented
component
athlete.
staff to
That's
not respond to
$50
Elmo's email?
trillion. That means our debt is totally paid off, and we have $15 trillion above that. And now, I don't know that we're going to sell that many. Maybe we won't sell many at all, but I think we're going to sell a lot.
Is anyone going to
because
ask
I
him
think
about the
there
stupid
really is a thirst.
Gaza
No
AI?
other country can do this because people don't want to go to other countries. They
RFK
wanna
got
come
them
here.
all on
Everybody wants
performance
to come here,
enhancing heroin.
especially since November 5th.
They'll all be vetted,
Oh my
by the way.
God.
All these people will be vetted, okay? They'll be vetted.
Vetted by whom? You guys are the worst.
Well, I'm not going to make security guarantees beyond very much. We're going to have Europe do that because it's in, we're talking about Europe as their next door neighbor. But we're going to make sure everything goes well. And as you know, we'll be making we'll be
really partnering with Ukraine in terms of rare earth. We very
No,
much
and
need rare earth. They
Epoch
have
Times
great
is there.
rare earth. We'll be working with Secretary Burgum and with Chris. You'll be working on that
Extortion.
together. And we're going
Well,
to be
hey
able to have
guys, good
tremendous-
news.
I mean, this
At
gives
least
us-
it's
'cause
not like
we
the old
don't have
days
that
when it was
much
all
of it here.
covert.
We have some,
covert.
but we don't have that much, and we need a lot more.
Sorry.
To
Too
really
soon.
propel us to the next level of, to lead in every way. We're leading right now with AI. We're leading with everything right now.
What?
But we have to, we need
I
resources.
think China
We have to
just
double our
released some
electric capacity. We have to
wanky
do
but kind
many
of,
things. We have to really triple, if you
operational
think of it,
open source.
The electric capacity from what we have
No,
right
I'm,
now.
I
if you
don't.
can
I don't know
believe
if they're there.
So I just say this. So the deal we're making gets us. It brings us great wealth. We get back the money that we spent, and we hope that we're going to be able to settle this up. We want to settle it. We want to stop. I tell you what, I'm doing it for two reasons, but the number one reason by far is to watch all these people being killed. I see pictures every week from, I assume satellite pictures mostly, but there's some pictures on site of thousands of soldiers that are being killed. They're being decimated because equipment today, military equipment, is so powerful and so devastating.
Actually, this should be lies.
And
but,
number
you
one, I
know.
want to see people stop. And they're not from here, they're from primarily two other countries. And then, by the way, let's talk about the Middle East. We got to solve that problem too. And that's come a long way. We're doing very well in that also. A lot of things are happening on that. But I'm watching soldiers being killed, Ukrainian and Russian soldiers being killed. My number one thing is to get that stopped. My number two thing is I don't want to have to pay any more money because Biden has spent $350 billion without any chance of getting it back. Now we're going to be getting all of that money back plus a lot more. And we provided a great thing. I mean, we provided something very important. And we'll be working with Ukraine, and because we'll be taking that, we're going to be taking what we're entitled to take. Now, they spent $350 billion, and Europe spent $100 billion. Now, does anybody really think that's fair? But then we find out a little while ago, not so long ago, a few months ago, I found out that the money they spent, they get back. But the money we spent, we don't get back. I said, well, we're going to
Okay,
get it
that's
back.
a lie. Hey, press
And we'll
pool.
be able to make
That's a
deal.
lie.
And
Macron
again,
fact checked that
President Zelensky's
bitch
coming to
earlier
sign the
this
deal.
week.
And it's
Why
a
are
great
you
thing.
not
It's a great deal for
stopping and
Ukraine,
interrupt?
too, because they get
Oh
us
my
over there. We're
God,
gonna
there's
be
no
working
balls
over there.
left.
We'll be on the
Where's
land,
that
and,
woman? Remember
you know,
the
in that way, there's sort of
Helen
automatic
Thomas or
security, because
something? She was
nobody's
like
gonna
the
be
White House
messing
pool.
around with our people when we're there.
I'm so
And
sorry.
we'll
I
be
just
there
am
in that
so
way. But,
angry.
Europe will be watching it very closely. I know that UK has said and France has said that they volunteered to put so-called peacekeepers on the site, and I think that's a good thing.
Mr. President, you have been very clear. The high cost of eggs, and we've seen consumer confidence this week have a sharp drop from last month, the biggest dip in, I believe, 3 years. Why is that, your assessment? Why is that the case? And is there
Well, I
anything
think
you
that
can do?
consumer confidence, if you look at confidence in the nation, it had the biggest increase in the history of the chart. It went up 42 points in a period of like days after the election, since the election. So since the election, the confidence in our nation, including right track, wrong track, the first time it's ever happened where we were on the right track, because this country has been on the wrong track for a long time. So the confidence in business, confidence in the country has reached an all-time high. We have never reached levels like we are right now. Okay.
Mr. President, you've been very clear in saying that as long as you're president, Iran will never get a nuclear weapon.
That's true.
Is it also your policy that as long as you're president, China will never take Taiwan by force?
I never comment on
No
that.
problem,
I
SB.
don't comment on anything because I don't want to ever put myself in that position. And if I said it, I certainly wouldn't be saying it to you. I'd be saying it to other people, maybe people around this table, and very specific people around this table. So I don't want to put myself in that position. But I can tell you what, I have a great relationship with President Xi. I've had a great relationship with him. We want them to come in and invest. I see so many things saying that we don't want China in this country. That's not right. We want them to invest in the United States. That's good. That's a lot of money coming in.
Here's all
and
my
we'll
hands.
invest in
Let me
China.
show all
We'll
my
do things with
hands.
China. The relationship
Look at
we'll
my
have with China would be a
hands.
very good one.
Here's
I
all
see
my
of these
hands. I got
phony
lots of
reports that we
hands.
don't want
Hands,
their
hands.
money, we don't want
Hands
anything
on
to do with them.
hands.
That's wrong. We're going to have a
Hands,
good
hands.
relationship with China, but they won't be able to
Hands.
take advantage of us.
It's a musical.
What they did to
Hands.
Biden was he didn't know what was happening. He didn't know what he was doing. The
Oh
administration
my God, you
didn't know
won,
what they were
dude.
doing.
Shut the
It was
fuck
very
up.
sad to
Nobody
watch.
gives.
But we're gonna
Nobody
have a
gives
good
a rat's
relationship
butt.
with China and Russia and Ukraine and the Middle East. We're doing things that, look, when I left, we had no
Ooh, Ann
wars.
Applebaum. I
We
love
had
her.
defeated ISIS totally. We had no inflation. We didn't have the Afghanistan
I know,
withdrawal,
Marco's
the
like,
worst withdrawal
well,
anybody's
that
ever
second
seen. I think
edible's
that's one of the
kicking in
reasons
just
that
about now.
President Putin looked at that
sounds
and he
good.
said, wow, these guys are a paper tiger. Look at it. We're no paper tiger. Don't forget, we got rid of ISIS in 3 weeks. People said it would take 5 years. We did it because when I came in, I let them do what they had to do.
I thought it was
And the
4
man that
years.
headed that
I know it
operation
was
is
4
now going
years,
to
he
be
said
your-
at one point.
Your chairman, right?
Yes,
Chairman
sir.
of the Joint Chiefs. Yes, sir. And
Wait, what?
Raisin Kane. I liked him right from the beginning. As soon as I heard his name, I said, that's my guy.
Oh my
Any
God,
other
Grandpa.
Decreases in crossings at the border to continue the pause on tariffs against Mexico and Canada? And
No,
if
no, I'm not stopping the tariffs. No, millions of people have died because of the fentanyl that comes over the border.
Even with the 90% drop in border crossings, though,
Well,
this
that's-
last
well-
month compared to about a year ago?
Yeah, they've been good, but that's also due to us, mostly due to us. I mean, it's very hard. It's right now very hard to come through the border, but look, the damage has been done. We've lost millions of people due to fentanyl. It comes mostly from China, but it comes through
I
Mexico.
don't actually,
comes
has
through
it been
Canada.
millions?
And I have
I'm not
to tell
trying
you that,
to,
you know, on
it probably
April
has at this
2nd, I was
point,
going to do
but
it on April 1st, but I'm a little bit superstitious, so I made it April 2nd. The tariffs
oh my
go on.
God, Grandpa.
Not all of them, but a lot of them. And I think you're going to see something that's
God, he's
going
like
to be
creepy
amazing.
uncle.
We've been taken advantage of as a country
From
for a long
RFK,
period
who
of
said a
time.
paper
We've
one
been-
isn't as
we've
good
been
as
tariffed.
eating a roadkill.
We didn't tariff. Now, I did when I was here. I tariffed.
Whale
we
heads.
Took in $700
Whale
million
juice.
from China.
Whale
700
juice.
million.
This is
Not
mortifying.
one president in this. in the
It
history
seems
of our
like a
country took
lot
in
of,
10 cents
I'll tell
from
you,
China.
fraud, waste, and abuse.
the
There
same
they
time,
are, right there,
China
fuckers,
respected
man,
us.
right
Now,
here. Fraud.
when,
Here's, wait,
COVID
here's fraud.
deal. I
Here's
used to call it
fraud,
the China virus. I guess
waste,
I can call it the China virus
and
again,
abuse.
but, you know, it's an accurate term, but I won't do that out of respect to China.
I win.
Say it again, what?
On Gaza, I just wondered if there's any progress towards the second phase of the ceasefire.
Well, I'm very disappointed when I see four bodies came in today. These are young people. Young people don't die, okay? Young people don't die. These are young people. 4 bodies came in today. They think they're doing us a favor by sending us bodies. So, look, that's a decision has to be made by Israel, by Bibi, but Israel has to make that decision. We got a lot of hostages back, but it's very sad what happened to those people. I mean, you had a young lady with her hand practically blown off. You know why it blew up? Because she put up her hand to try and stop a bullet that was coming her way. And it hit her hand and blew off her fingers, big part of her hand. This is a vicious group of people. And Israel's going to have to
Whoa,
decide
Grandpa
what they're
trauma
doing.
porn. Come on,
Phase
calm
1
down.
is going to be ending. Think of it. Today they sent in 4 bodies. Bodies.
Yes,
And I will
meme
say
that.
one thing,
Iggy, you're,
I've
yes.
spoken to a lot of the parents and a lot of the people involved. They want those bodies almost as much and maybe even just as much as they wanted their son or their daughter. Amazing. Please, sir, please, my son is
Oh
dead,
my
but
God.
they have his body. Please, can you get it for
Trauma
us? It's
porn.
the biggest thing. It's incredible, the level, they want the bodies of
He doesn't
these people.
care.
They're dead.
He doesn't
They're
care
dead.
about them.
And, you know, when I saw the ones that came in 2 weeks ago, they looked like they just got out of a concentration camp.
Oh
Then the
my
following week, the
God.
meat came in and they weren't as bad, in as bad a shape. But Israel's going to have to make a decision. You're right, phase 1 and now phase 2 has started. And today we got some.
Oh, that's right,
you
we
know,
have the
very,
soda
very
coming up.
We knew they were dead, by the way. We knew that they were going to be bodies as opposed to people that were living. But it's a very sad situation. At some point, somebody's going to say, we got to do something about this.
Mr. President,
What?
let's talk about
Wait, what?
about Bot's withdrawal. Have all the generals or command staff that were involved with the withdrawal been fired or relieved of duty?
Well, that's a great idea. As far as, I'm not going to tell this man what to do, but I will say that If I had his place, I'd fire every single one of them, Pete. Pete, that's a very good question.
Well, it's a question we've thought a lot about. We're doing a complete review of every single aspect of what happened with the botched withdrawal of Afghanistan, and plan to have full accountability.
Well,
One of the first
Mike
things we announced in the
Pompeo.
Justice Department for that reason, sir. Certainly, General Raisin Kane, who's on his way in, was not a part of that. Instead, was a part of leading the effort against ISIS by untying the hands of warfighters and finishing the job properly, and then bringing our troops home. So we're
How
taking
do
a
you
very
untie the
different
hands of
view, obviously, than the
warfighters?
previous administration,
I'm
and
afraid to
there will
ask.
be full accountability.
I don't see big promotions in that group. And I think they're going to be largely gone. I know the man on my left. I think they're going to be largely gone. That was a horrible display.
Yeah, you set it up.
And, you know, I've dealt with the parents
Doha.
and the family.
Remember?
The 13 that were
Mike
killed. But,
Pompous
nobody
ass.
ever talks about the 40
That's
that were
right.
so badly
You set
hurt
it
with the
up.
arms and the legs and
You
the face
set it
and the
up.
whole thing, the
This is
missing
the man
arms
that
and
invited the Taliban to come to fucking
It
Camp
was so
David.
terrible the way that was handled. And it
He
should have been done through
negotiated
Bagram.
outside of
We
the
have a big
Afghan
base with big
government.
fences and nobody can get
He
in,
set
and you
it
have,
up,
you know,
you
hundreds of acres
idiots. It's
instead of a
amazing.
little
We
local
only
airport where the whole
lost
place went crazy.
13
It was
precious
so badly
people.
handled, and I would think that most of those
I
people are gonna be
imagine
gone.
we might have lost more if the
So I'll tell you
military
what,
wasn't on it. I
what
mean, that's
has
just, you
bothered
know,
me very
common
much, very,
sense.
very much. We give billions of dollars
Juice
to
Belli.
Afghanistan. Nobody knows that. Nobody knew that. Do you know we give billions of dollars to Afghanistan? And yet we left behind all of that equipment, which wouldn't have happened. You know, we were getting out under me. I'm the one that got it down to
Jeff
5,000
Belli.
people. We were
I
going
like
to get
that.
out, but
That's
we
a
were
good
going to keep
character name.
Bagram. Not because of Afghanistan, but because of China, because it's exactly 1 hour away from where China makes its nuclear missiles. So we're going to keep Bagram. We were going to keep a small force on Bagram.
He's so
We were
mad
gonna
that
have
we didn't
Bagram
keep
Air Base,
Bagram.
One
Oh,
of the biggest
is he
air
mad?
bases in the world, one of the biggest runways.
He
one of the
wanted
most
that. He wanted those
powerful
minerals.
runways in the sense that it was very
wanted
heavy
that. What is it,
concrete
lithium?
And steel. You could carry about anything.
Is
You
it
could land
lithium over
anything
there?
on those runways. We gave
You
it
think?
up. And you know
Maybe
who's
I'm wrong.
occupying it right now?
Is it something
China.
else or multiple?
Biden gave it up.
Maybe it's multiple.
So we're going to keep that, and we're going to have a withdrawal, and we're going to take our equipment. We're going to do it properly. We're going to do it very. We're going
okay.
to keep the equipment.
All right. All
Well,
right.
they ran
okay,
out.
Jan.
It
Sure,
was-
Jan.
What happened there was it just.
Oh, I
in
need a
fact,
sure Jan
You know, in
meme,
all
don't I?
fairness to Putin, when he saw that, he said, "Well, this is our time to go and go into."
How do you know that?
Ukraine, I
Gosh,
guess,
sir,
'cause it
how
was
do you
the
know that?
timing seemed to be about right. But
How do
we
you know
send
that?
them billions of dollars in aid, which nobody knows. If the American public knew that, they know it now. And if we're doing that, I think they should give our equipment back. And I told
I didn't
Pete
like
to
the
study
straight
that.
hair young
But we left
Republican
billions, tens of
Oh,
billions
is this on
of
the
dollars
Canadian
worth of
stuff?
equipment behind brand new trucks. You
They-
see them display it every year on their
Yeah,
little
they
roadway
left based on
someplace
your
where they have a
negotiated
road,
bullshit at
and they
Doha.
drive the, you know, waving the flag and talking about America. Beautiful equipment that's all. I mean, the top of the
That
line
would have
stuff,
cost as
brand new
much
stuff.
as
Now
it
it's
cost to
getting older.
replace it to
But you know
move
what?
it.
We're going to pay them. I think we should get a lot of that equipment.
I know.
back. You know that
Paul Langan, they're
Afghanistan
just not
is one of
gonna
the
do
biggest
it.
sellers of military equipment in
They're
the world.
just
You know
not
what?
gonna
They're
do
selling
it.
the equipment that we left.
Eh,
We're first. They were
That
second
is
or
a
third.
compliant
Can you believe
press
it? They're
room.
selling 777,000 rifles.
The lighting in there is
70,000 armor-plated.
atrocious.
Many of them were armor-plated trucks and vehicles.
I mean, for such
70,000.
a production
If you
conscious.
think of a used car lot, the biggest one in the country, if I would say, JD, if somebody had 500 cars, that would be a lot.
Wait, where is JD
This
Vance? Is he designated
70,000
survivor?
Vehicles we had there.
Is he the
And we left
designated
it for them.
survivor?
I think we should get it back.
Mr. President, the spending bill that passed last night aims to cut $2 trillion.
Right.
Can you guarantee that Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security will not be touched?
Yeah, I mean, I have said it so many times, you shouldn't be asking me that question, okay? This will not be read my lips. There won't be read my lips anymore. We're not going to touch it. Now, we are going to look for fraud. I'm sure you're okay with that.
Oh,
Like people
see?
that shouldn't be on, people that are illegal aliens and others, criminals in many cases. And that's with Social Security. We have a lot of people. You see that immediately when you see people
So
that are
it's
200
the
years old
fraud
that
they're
are
going to cut, not the
being
benefits.
sent checks for Social Security.
gonna
Some
be
of
the
them are
fraud.
actually being sent checks. So we're tracing
Programs
that
are gonna
down,
be
and I have a feeling that
fraudulent.
Pam is going to do a very good job with that. But you have a lot of fraud.
Immunization
And, no, I'm not-
programs,
I'm not doing
fraud.
anything on that.
Mr. President, part of your mission.
Oh boy, this is so bad, you all. This is so
Part
bad.
of your mission has been to restore executive executive.
This is so bad.
over the executive
Sorry,
branch.
I can't sugarcoat
Is
it.
your view of your authority that you
Mima's
have the
fucked,
power
by the
to
way. I'll
call
translate for the
anyone or
chuds.
all of the people
Your
seated in the
Mima's
stadium
fucked up.
and issue orders
She's
that
gonna
they
be
don't follow?
fucked all the way.
Oh, yeah, they'll follow the orders.
All the
yes,
way.
they will.
Get
No
ready.
exceptions?
No exception.
Get
Well,
ready,
let's see, let me
bitches.
think.
Any
Yeah.
home health
Yeah.
care you thought you
She'll have
had
an
through
exception.
Medicare or Medicaid, fuck you. You're not going to have it
Let's
anymore.
not
You're going to have to take care of your Mima. You're going to have to move in with your grandma and take care of her because the
25%.
government is going to pull away,
April 2nd.
bitch. Oh, but they'll sell you a
And
they'll
for-
sell you a
And for
plan
everything.
Well, we have the.
run by
the
Oscar Health,
fentanyl-related
founded by the Kushner brothers.
If they can prove to the president they've done an excellent
Privatization.
job, that's what they first do in
Bitches.
30 days.
Have you guys seen any
But then the
change?
overall is April 2nd. So the big transaction is April 2nd, but the fentanyl.
There it is now. Fraud, waste, and abuse.
At the end of that 30
Starting
days,
with
they have to
Trump.
prove to the
Fraud,
president that
waste,
they've
and abuse.
Satisfied him to that regard if they have. It's
gonna be
He'll
hard to
give them a
satisfy.
pause, or he won't. But
It's going
that's
to be
up to
hard to
him. We'll see.
satisfy. We lose 300,000 people a year to fentanyl.
I think
Not
he was.
100, not 95, not 60 like you read. You know, you've been reading it for years. We lost, in my opinion, over the last couple of years, on average, maybe close to 300,000 people dead. And the families are ruined. You know, when they lose a daughter, when they lose a son, the families are never the same. You're never going to be the same. So
I think he's a
you're talking
venture
about
capitalist.
1 million people.
Waste.
The daughters die, I see it, daughters
Yeah.
die and the sons die because of fentanyl. And in some cases, I don't even know they're taking it. They're buying something else and it's laced with fentanyl and they end up dying.
This is all
And
he
I
has.
know
The
many
same
people
shit,
who've lost
wasted
children
stories.
to fentanyl
Just
and
dumbass
for other
stories.
reasons, but
Badger,
the
I
fentanyl is
totally
such a big
understand.
killer. And those people are never the same people. I mean, I've seen people that for the rest of their lives, they're not the same people. They're so different, it's not even believable. Dynamic people, happy people they die a miserable death. And that's because of the crap that comes in through China and through Mexico and through Canada. A lot of it comes through Canada. Look, we support Canada. $200 billion
Thanks,
a year
Obama.
in subsidies one way or the other. We let them make millions of cars. We let them send us lumber. We don't need their lumber. We're going to free up our lumber. Lee's going to do the head of environmental. We're going to free up our lumber. We have the best lumber there is. We don't need their lumber. What do we need their lumber for?
We have trees. We
when
can
you
cut all
look at
that shit down.
we-
It's all
we
going to be put in the
subsidize them
sovereign
$200
wealth fund.
billion a year. Without us, Canada can't
Our
make it.
sovereign
You know,
washing
Canada
machine.
relies on us 95%. We rely on them 4%. Big difference. And I say Canada should be our 51st state.
Isolation.
There's
This is
no
a weird.
tariffs, no
You know, it's so
nothing.
weird that it's worse than I
And
thought it was
say
going to
that
be.
We give them military protection. They have
That's
a
such a
very
weird
small
feeling.
military. They spend very little
Right?
money on military.
Kind of a
On
weird
NATO,
feeling.
they're just about last
How did we get here?
in terms of payment because they say, why
Please
should
share the
we spend on
broadcast. Please
military?
like,
That's a
share, and
tremendous cost.
subscribe.
Most nations can't
Thank you.
afford to even think about it. Why should we spend on military? The United States protects us. And I would say that's largely true. We protect Canada, but it's not fair. It's not fair
How do we?
that they're not
I mean,
paying
probably
their
we
way.
do, but I think
And if
Canada's
they had
bailed
to
our
pay their
ass
way,
out
they
of a couple
couldn't
things.
exist. When I spoke to, let's call it the prime minister rather than the governor, but when I spoke to him, I said, why are we giving you $200 billion
That's it,
a
Max.
year?" He
That's
was
the
unable to
headline.
answer
This
the
is so
question. I said,
humiliating
why are we letting you make
for the U.S.
millions of cars and send them in?
Hey, world,
was
if
unable
you're
to
listening,
answer
which you're
the
probably
question.
not, but that's
Justin
okay.
Trudeau, a nice guy. I think he's a very good guy. I call
None
him
of us
Governor
really
Trudeau.
believe
He
this,
should be
and I
governor
actually
because
think he
the
lost
fact
this
is
election.
that
Now I'm
if we
convinced he
don't,
lost.
give them cars.
Now I'm
We
convinced.
don't have to give them cars. The tariffs will
I'm
make
convinced.
it impossible for them to sell cars into the United States.
I don't know how,
The
but those
tariffs will make
bitches
it
use their time
impossible
to figure
for
out
them
how to rig this
sell
motherfucker.
Lumber or anything else into the United States. And all I'm asking to do is break even or lose a little bit, but not lose $200 billion. And we love Canada. I love Canada. I love the people of Canada. And but honestly, it's not fair for us to be supporting Canada. And if we don't support them, they don't subsist as
Thank
a,
you,
as a
Neil.
nation.
NORAD and NATO are multilateral organizations. Canada did not beg the U.S. to join. It was a joint decision, win-win for both countries. Yeah, Neil, you have to
We
just.
have made a
This is
decision.
all
We'll be
lies.
announcing it very soon, and it'll
Where am
be 25% generally speaking, and that'll be on cars and all of the things. And European Union is a different case than Canada, different kind of case. They've really taken advantage of us in a different way. They don't accept our cars. They don't accept essentially our farm products. They use all sorts of reasons why not. And we accept everything of them. And we have about a $300 billion deficit with the European Union. Now, I love the countries of Europe. I guess I'm from there at some point a long time ago, right? But indirectly, pretty directly too, I guess. But I love the countries of Europe. I love all countries, frankly, all different. But European Union's been, it was formed in order to screw the United States. I mean, look, let's be honest. The European Union was formed in order to screw the United States. That's the purpose of it. And they've done a good job of it, but now I'm president.
What will happen if these countries or the EU retaliate?
They can't. I mean, they can try, but they can't.
China did. They went into effect. China's
That's right. That's right.
But 10th of February, has there been any
That's
impact
right.
you've been able to observe?
That's right. No, they can do it, and they can try, but the numbers can never equal what ours, because we can go off. We are the pot of gold. We're the one that everybody wants. And
We're the top.
They can retaliate, but
We're
it
the-
cannot be a successful retaliation. Because
Mona
we just go cold turkey.
Lisa.
We don't buy anymore. And if that happens, we win.
The top. We're a
No.
slice of pizza.
No, I haven't. I
Mr.
haven't.
President, you're in litigation with CBS News. Is this a case that you'd like to see go to trial? or
Iggy
are you
for the
open-
win.
With who?
Iggy for the win.
CBS? Well, CBS did something that was amazing. Kamala was unable
here
to
we
answer
go.
a question
Match it up.
properly. And they took the question that they asked and they inserted an answer. They gave her an
Hi,
answer.
Lisa. Welcome back.
This was 2 days before the election, right before the Sunday night
I also
before
know
the
what we
election.
need. This is brilliant. I
And
love you
they
so
wrote
much,
out
Iggy. You're the meme queen.
Put her words.
But I got
from
something
another
else
question
planned
that
for
was
this guy
asked
too.
About a half an hour later, and they put that into the question. Nobody's ever even heard of it before. Nobody's ever heard of anything like this before.
Wait,
but
are we
they then
talking
did
about
it,
Kamala?
They
What the
say on
fuck?
numerous occasions.
What the fuck's going on here?
And the FCC is looking at it very strongly, and everybody's looking at it, and but
sounds
nobody's
like
ever
some
seen anything. Think of it. They took her answers and they changed them. And I don't mean they changed a word or two, or they cut off a half a sentence, or they cut off a couple of words. I mean, I've had that happen too, but that you just say, you know, then they say, well, we want brevity. You know, we wanted to do it for time.
This
They took out her
asshole
answer
has
and they inserted an
feelings.
entirely different answer that made her sound confident. And they did
Feelings of
this,
that
and nobody's
lady
ever. I thought I've heard of
who
everything when it
laughed
comes to
in
that
his
stuff. No, I've never heard of it. Nobody's ever seen it. So we sued, and we are in discussions of settlement.
What would a number be, like, what's a number that you would?
I think it's a lot. It could have. It probably did
Max,
affect the
I
election.
understand.
I mean, we won by a lot. As I said, too big to rig. But it probably did affect the election. Yeah, probably could have won by more. But I could have lost the election because of that. We have to get to honest elections. We have to go back to paper ballots. We have to go back to voter ID. One-day election, ideally, or short-term, not these 48-day and 61-day
Unfortunately, I really want to
elections
hear
where
what
boxes
he's
are put in a
saying.
room and, oh, let's move the boxes because we're putting in a new air conditioning system. Then you see the boxes move and then you
This
say, well,
asshole
where are all the
has
boxes?
feelings.
You know, what happened to the boxes that never came back?
He
Now, our
loves
elections are
lies and feelings.
extremely dishonest. We're the only country in the world that has mail-in voting and all of these different things that we put in. No other country in the world has it. You know, France went to, they had some of the things that we had, and they went to same-day voting, all paper. And you know, paper is very sophisticated now. It's a very
Asshole just can't
sophisticated,
let them
it's a very
go.
sophisticated form of voting
His
right now. It's a very safe
feelings
form
so
of voting. You know, the other things for the governors, I wish the governors would do it because the paper ballots will cost 9% of the machines. And
This
they're 100%.
is just
you know, they're,
big
nothing's foolproof, but they're as close as you get. So,
Crimes
we'll
and
see what happens. But on the 60-minute thing, nobody's ever seen anything like it.
Here just about.
And I don't think it's linked, but probably the lawyers look at it, you know, because I know it's going along. FCC is headed by a very competent person. and you have some very competent people on the board, and so I think they're looking at it very seriously.
So
Yeah.
of all the deals that you've done in your life, all the people you've sat across from and negotiated with, is President Putin distinct in any way?
He's a very smart guy. He's a very cunning person, but
just can't stop
I've dealt with some people I've dealt with some really bad people. But I will tell you, as far as this is concerned, you have to understand, he had no intention, in my opinion, of settling this war. I think he wanted the whole thing. When I got elected, we spoke, and I think we're going to have a deal. I can't guarantee that. You know, a deal is a deal. Lots of crazy things happen in deals, right? But I think we're going to have a deal. If I didn't get elected, I believe he would have just continued to go through Ukraine, and over a period of time, a lot of people would have been killed, would have lasted for a period of time. And the reason that Ukraine, and I have great respect for the Ukraine as fighters, as great fighters, but without our equipment, that war would have been over, like people said, in a very short period of time.
So you agree with
And
giving
if you
them
remember,
equipment?
I gave the javelins, and the javelins are the things that knocked out those tanks right at the beginning of the war. They said that Obama at the time gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. Well, I was the one that did that, but I want to see it come to an end.
Will he have to make concessions, President Putin?
Yeah, he will. He's going to have to. And I believe that because we got elected, that war will come to an end. And I also believe if we didn't get elected, if this administration didn't win the election by a lot, that war would go on for a long time, and he would want to take the whole thing. Because the big question I had is, does he want to take the whole thing? How do you know that? But the reason, and the Ukrainians are good fighters, I have to say, but without the equipment, without our equipment, we have the best equipment in the world. We have the best military equipment in the world. Without our equipment,
Well, then don't you think you should make sure they continue to have access to that, so they can be a sovereign nation?
I don't want to tell you right now, but I can tell you that
No, you don't, because you're
NATO you can
Putin
forget about.
puppet.
I think that's probably the reason the whole thing started. And I think, JD, we can say that. Do you have a statement on that? You've been very much involved. I gave him the beauty.
Great. Gave me the hard
Oh, I guess
question,
he's not
sir.
designated
I mean, look,
survivor.
as the president said,
Oopsie.
we're not going to
Who
do
the
the
fuck's
negotiation
designated
in public
survivor?
with the American media. He's going to do it in
Pam
private
Bondi.
with the president of Russia, with the president of Ukraine, and with other leaders. And I think that's how this has to go. I think that I just want to push back against some of the
Put the money in the
criticism I've
bag,
seen in the
see?
administration on this, because every single time the president engages in diplomacy, you guys preemptively accuse him of conceding to Russia.
you guys.
He hasn't conceded anything to anyone. He's doing the job
Shut the
of a
fuck up.
diplomat, and he is, of course, the diplomat
Lapdog.
in chief as the president of the United States.
Oh my God! Get down on your knees.
He'll go through a process. The process is being worked out right now, and we're going to be very careful.
Will there be restrictions on, for instance, can Chinese nationals get
No, we're
one,
not going to
Iranian
restrict.
nationals
We're
get
probably not going to be restricting too much in terms of countries, but maybe in terms of individuals. We want to make sure we
really?
have people that love our
okay.
country and are capable
Really?
of loving the country.
Really?
There's a measles outbreak
Really?
in Texas at the moment in which a child is reported to have died. Do you have concerns about that, and have you asked Secretary Kennedy to look into that?
Well, why don't we, Bobby, do you want to speak on that? please?
Bobby, you awake?
Following the measles epidemic every day, I think there's 124 people who have contracted measles at this point, mainly in Gaines County, Texas. Mainly, we're told in the Mennonite community. There are 2 people who have died, but
Are you okay?
Watching it, and there are about 20 people hospitalized, mainly for quarantine. We're watching it. We put out a post on it yesterday, and we're going to continue to follow it. Incidentally, there have been 4 measles outbreaks this year in this country. Last year, there were 16. So it's
what?
not unusual. We have measles outbreaks every year.
Wait, what?
You sound a little under the weather yourself.
I have a permanently bad throat.
Mr. President, would you send U.S.
No, you just coughed, okay?
support the European peacekeepers? Would you do any sort of U.S.
No, we're going to support Europe, yeah.
And how would you
We're
do
very
that?
friendly with Europe. We have a great relationship with Europe. I mean, you could ask, you could talk about France. You
I
could
don't
talk about
know.
any of them. I mean, we have a great
Have you
relationship
checked in with them
you.
lately,
How
dear?
will the United States do that? Would there be?
Well, how? I mean, you're asking me a question, what are we doing in the field? Let's worry, I hope we have that problem where we could worry about peacekeeping. We got to get there first, but I hope we have the problem of worrying about
Who's knocking?
peacekeeping. That'll be the easiest problem, I think, JD, that we've ever had.
That would be part of the deal, presumably.
We'll do it at the time, but peacekeeping is very easy. It's making the deal that's very tough. And again, nobody was speaking to Russia at all. And
Well, there's reasons, but
you know,
okay.
probably 1.5 million soldiers have been killed, close to 1.5 million soldiers, not to mention a tremendous. I will tell you, the
What about
thing
Gaza?
with that horrible war that should have never started, would have never started if I were president. And it didn't start for 4 years, and it was not even thought about starting.
Why? Really?
But the
Why
thing
do you
with
say
that war
that?
is that you're highly underestimating the number of people that have been killed. Far more people have been killed in that war than you talk about. You know, you like to talk about numbers like 1 million people. Well, they had much more than 1 million soldiers killed. But you have a lot of cities that have been knocked to the ground. They're demolition sites, literally demolition sites.
I'll take the
Every
background
single
off of
building
that,
is
but
knocked
for
to the
now,
ground.
this
And a
works.
lot of people were killed in those buildings. And you'll hear a report, 2 people were minorly injured or just injured a little bit. No, people were killed by the thousands. And there are a lot more people killed in that war than the media wants to talk about, because Biden did a horrible, horrible job. He should have prevented that war. He could have prevented that war. Putin would have never gone in. I'll tell you one thing, he would have never gone in. That war would never have taken place if I were president.
I think what people are trying to understand, Mr. President, is how would the United States, what would you be willing to do to support this European peacekeeping effort? Would there be?
Again, you're asking me the same question? How many times do you have to answer? You're talking about after we make peace. Let me make peace first. Once we make peace, I'll give you all the answers you want. But how many times can you ask the same question?
Is loosening of sanctions on...
Yeah, go ahead. It's behind.
Is loosening of sanctions on Russia a potential option as part of...
Not now. No. We have sanctions on Russia. No, I want to see if we make a deal first, but I think we will. I've had very good conversations with President Putin. I've had very good conversations with President Zelensky, and until 4 weeks ago, nobody had conversations with anybody. It wasn't even a consideration. Nobody thought you could make peace. I think you can.
But if Mr. Putin gets to keep the land that's claimed by force, if the Russians get to keep the territory that they claim by force, doesn't that send a dangerous message, let's say, to China?
Oh, okay. You try and take it away, right? We're gonna do the best we
What?
can. We're gonna do the best we can to make the best deal we can for both sides, but for Ukraine.
Both
We're gonna
sides?
try very hard to make a good deal so that they can get as much back as possible.
What?
We want to get as much back as possible.
Mr. President, just
What?
We'll cut it out after maybe this question. Go ahead.
to bring this full circle.
Unless it's a
back
bad
to-
question, and then we'll get that.
back to-
You always like to finish on a good one.
Sir, they want you to negotiate with them instead of
I
with
know.
President Putin.
They want to continue to talk about the peacekeepers. You have a lot of confidence in us because you assume there's going to be peace. You know, it's possible it doesn't work out. There is possibility. But I hope it does.
What?
For the sake of humanity, because if you look at the pictures that I've looked at, you don't want to look at them. Go ahead.
I have a question back on these cuts to the federal workforce. You mentioned you're interested in doing another round of this email. When would you like to see that? What would be the deadline?
I'm not. I
This
think
time, be
Elon.
mandatory.
I think Elon wants to, and I think it's a good idea because those people, as I said before, they're on the bubble. You got a lot of people that have not responded, so we're trying to figure out: do they exist? Who are they? And it's possible that a lot of those people will be actually fired. And if that happens,
I think there should be spamming
that's
those
okay, because
emails.
that's
We
what
should
we're
spam
trying to
those
do.
emails. I'm
this
sorry.
country's gotten bloated and fat and disgusting and incompetently run. I think we had the worst president in the history of our country.
Oh, fucking
He just
shut
left
up.
office. I
God,
think
you're
he's a
obsessed,
disgrace,
girl.
What he's done to our country by allowing millions of people to come into our country like that. And all of the other things, the inflation, which he caused because of energy and stupid
What
spending.
about the people who are in Guantanamo?
Spend,
What's
hundreds
happening
of
with them?
Millions, trillions and trillions of dollars on the Green New scam, a total scam. I have the best energy people, the best environmental people in the world around this table, and they can't even believe he got away with it. And then in leaving office to send $20 billion here and $20 million there and 10 million and 5 million.
What are you
and
talking
they couldn't
about?
spend the money fast enough. And
What
let's get
are
it out
you
before Trump
talking
gets
about?
in. Let's just get it out to
Grandpa,
anybody. And this is a
eat your
disgrace
mashed
to our
potatoes.
nation. And you don't write the fair thing, but look, you know, the good news, the people see it, and that's why we won the election by so much. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it.
Wow, it's stopping, Paul. You got your wish. Okay, well, I just want to take that off for a minute. Hold on, let me get that out of here so we can just have a. Oh, hey, Putin, get the fuck out of here. No, you two, get out. And you guys, get out. Oh. I remember you. You're the one who made my dreams come true. Ooh, didn't you know? I know. That markup hearing was the most interesting. That's actually why I want to listen to more markup hearings, actually. So I'll try and curate more of those hearings. Obviously, we want to listen to some of the more interesting hearings about topics that are of the day. And I just want to make sure that we're covering those markup hearings because I think those are extraordinarily important. Yes. Yeah, there's no shun the 2 minutes hate. The devil is in the details. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I'm actually coming back. I'm coming back in an hour, I think. Wait, I have to check. Hold on. I don't know. Wait a minute. Let me just see. I'm not sure. Hold on. Let me tell you. I mean, you might know, or maybe you don't, and that's totally understandable. Let's see. Where am I? Okay, there's mine. Okay, great. There's me. All right, wait's coming up. What's coming up? What's coming up? Upcoming. What time? What time is that? Oh, 2:30 p.m. Oh, I'm coming back later. I don't know why it's so late. I can't remember. Hold on. Let me tell you why it's so late. I'll tell you why it's so late. Oh, it's a crypto hearing. It's a crypto hearing. Mm, 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 mm. Exploring bipartisan legislative frameworks for digital assets. But if we don't like that, we can go back to something else because there might be something else. So please do come back for Twice Baked with Lolo this afternoon, evening, whatever time it is for you, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. Be not afraid of greatness. Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. Thrust upon them. Yeah, it's a double dose of Lolo today. And thank you again. And thanks for coming to the documentary we had last night on Discord. It was 1,000 cuts. I fucking highly recommend it. And just a little humble brag. We thanked on Twitter, we thanked Maria Ressa and the other journalists of Rappler. And Maria Ressa said, thank you for watching. So from Maria Ressa to all of you, thank you for watching the documentary 1,000 Cuts about her incredible bravery standing in the gap against power and suffering the consequences of it. So Maria Ressa says thank you, Lolo's Loungers, for choosing her documentary. Thank you, Oren. I know you might not be here, but thank you, Oren, for bringing that documentary forward. I am so proud of this, what we do. And it's just open to everyone. Everyone can join in what we do, and everyone contributes to making what we do as helpful as possible during hard times. And that just uplifts me so much, right? Like we have such a good group, and more come on in every day, right? The orange buffoon is gone. And actually, Neil, I'm signing off for now for the morning, but I'm gonna be back later on this afternoon, 2:30. Yeah, actually, good point. 2:30 p.m. Pacific. I'm coming back for another hearing this afternoon. And that I do want to remind folks about Discord. I was just thinking about that this morning. Discord is like the best way I can describe Discord. It's like a public bullet. It's as if a chat is on a public bulletin board because anybody can access the information in our Discord chat, just in terms of the chat, etc. So I always want to urge people, please don't share personal information in chat. I know it's tempting because it feels very intimate, like we're an intimate group, but it's just basically an open bulletin board to the world. There's not a restriction on who can view it, etc. So I want you to be safe on that platform and every platform. So I always discourage you from sharing personal information, identifying information, anything that people who are assholes in this world, because there's plenty of them, would try to use to identify you or harass you or anything of that nature. I never want that to happen. I overshare all the time. So don't be like me. No. But I also absolutely adore the genuineness and the sincerity that people bring to the Discord. But just know that anytime I admonish sharing of personal information, it's from a place of deep love and respect for the people in that Discord who give a lot of themselves just to create a really solid community. So I want you to be safe. And I thank you. Oomph, that's a great reminder. And I really, really want to stress that until we all get really good at our OPSEC. Get good at your operational security. Mine are just OPSEC, nothing personal. Yeah, except to you. Yeah. And it's, I don't know. Anyway, if you ever have questions, you can always come to me. I'm pretty much of an open book. But yeah, I really appreciate everyone. And I thought and just getting that acknowledgement and Maria Ressa saying thank you to the loungers for watching that is pretty fucking cool. So I don't know. That's a good way to start the day. One of our heroes, acknowledge is we reached one of our heroes and said we're able to say thank you, and that means a lot. Like that feels really good to be able to say thank you to someone who's doing a great thing in the world for everyone's benefit. Yeah, we need you know what? Actually, we should also have Bobo do a Discord tutorial. She's offered to do that, and I think that's a good idea. She's been on Discord for a long time. And she knows a lot about how to do your settings so that you can protect yourself or, go through the defaults. Because there's a lot of settings on Discord that are weird. So Bobo has offered, and we can set up a session where she just basically shares a screen and walks through the different settings and what to do. I'm happy to do that. I think that that would be very helpful to me as well. So I think I'll definitely get her. I'll sign her up for that. Yeah, I think it would be helpful. It would be helpful to me. So I might as well have it public so that people can kind of like see share all the information at once, And you might learn something, you might learn nothing, but I don't know. She's got a pretty good handle on Discord and has used it for like over a decade. So I think, or whatever, however long it's been around. I don't know. Maybe she was on something else before that. But anyway, she's been using that both in public Discords and more private Discords. So I feel like she knows that. She's always helped troubleshoot my settings. So that's one thing. Anyway, I'm rambling. All right. Don't mean to ramble. Sorry. Okay. So I'll see you a little bit later on. Hopefully, if I don't, have a wonderful Wednesday. And yeah, I will hopefully see you soon.